Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, this part two. The Black Asian installment, so-called black, right? I really wanted to start out the video and ask you guys sincerely, when you think of Asian, what do you guys picture really when you think of Asian? Well, let's see what Google tells us. You know, when I put Asian here on Google and I hit search and I go to images, this is what they give us. When I say Asian, what do you picture? So is this what you picture? Is Google right? Is this what you picture? How about the word Chino? When I say Chino to you, what do you picture? And again, let's go to Google. We put Chino. Let's go to images. And again, this is what we get. Is this what you were picturing when I say Chino? Be honest. And that's all of us. We grew up thinking Chino or Chinese or Asian. This is the phenotype. This is what we're supposed to see. This is what we should expect, supposedly. All right. So we got to try to break some spells here. Misconceptions, stereotypes, prejudices, our own hijacks. You know, we got to dodge our own hijacks. So why am I showing LeBron James? Be honest, if I say Chino to you guys, is this what you guys picture? If I say Chino, do you guys picture LeBron James? No, right? Most people don't. Be honest. Why would you picture LeBron James when you hear Chino or Asian, right? Chino or Asian. All right, now take a look at this. Over here in the left, we got an indigenous elder from the island of Papua New Guinea, Southeast Asia, South Pacific, and very much resembling the phenotype of LeBron James. These are the indigenous people of the Papua New Guinea area. And I'm gonna show you guys today that these are the people they were calling Chinos. A lot of these so-called Chinos were people from Papua New Guinea and many other places. This is actually the one I found on the internet, and I changed it up a little bit, but this is what I found on the internet, so somebody else had made the connection. Not saying that LeBron is from Papua New Guinea, but he does have a similar look. It's just for comparison. And somebody else did this image. So again, you know, we Googled Asian and we Googled Chino, and an image like this didn't come up. You know, this is what they gave us for Chino, and this is what they gave us for Asian. Okay. All right. Do you see any so-called black Asiatics? They don't show us pictures like this. This is a colorized old picture I had. This is from part 1 of this series. Part 1. And this is the cover for part 1. In case you guys haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. Great video. Also, we got some really good images we colorized here of Asians that they never show us. Yeah, these are Asians right here on the cover, as you can see. See the guy in the middle with his pick from the Fiji Islands. We're going to see a couple of those images again today. So make sure to check out part 1 if you haven't. After this video, is a great video. You guys will enjoy it, especially if you're gonna enjoy this one. All right, so again, wanted to start out just to break some spells before I start reading something here. It says Southern Indian men, southern part of Hindustan, as it was called before, today known as India. And that's an indigenous person from India. Right here we got a people from the Moluccas, indigenous people, the Moluccas, as they're called, Moluccas people. Again, from Southeast Asia. All right, so real quick, so we can get a clear perspective of what I'm talking about. So what I just showed you is the Moluccas people, or the Maluku Islands, the Maluku Island people, right? This is in Indonesia. All right, let me just back up so you guys can see where we are. We're right on top of Australia. Papua New Guinea is right here. We got the Philippines over here. Borneo. All right, we're gonna see a lot of pictures from there. Malaysia, Sumatra, Java, Jakarta, capital, Javanese, Timor. We're gonna see people from all these places today. We're gonna see a lot of pictures. A lot of them, I couldn't determine what island they're from, but they're from all these areas. The Ambon people, as you guys can see, Ambon, study them. Very melanated people. Look how it says Peru or Peru, Indonesia, Peru must be connected. This is Borneo right here. We're gonna get into the Philippines a lot. Look how it says here, Negros. So I'm gonna show you guys a lot of pictures from a lot of the indigenous population in these places. So many islands here, a lot of places, a lot of people they never showed us. Coming from Asia, this is Borneo. You see Borneans. Over here is Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. I haven't really got into those, but we're gonna get into them as well. I do have some pictures of Chinese people, some Ainu people we're gonna go over. But I just wanted to show you guys where we are. This is not Africa, and these are not Africans. So I invite all Pan-Africans to please catch up to the presentations. Everybody did not come out of Africa. All so-called black people did not come out of Africa. These people are indigenous to this part of the world right here. All right, the Malaysians, Melanesians, the Negritos. So again, the Maluku Islands, we're gonna see a lot of pictures from the Maluku Islands and all these areas around here. Even up here, look, North Maluku, this is all connected. When you see Malakus or Malukas, that's what they're talking about. Just want to show you guys also, there's so many islands out here. As it keeps going, you see the Solomon Islands over here, Samoa. You got Fiji. We're going to see a lot of pictures from Fiji, the Fijians, Samoa, right? Islands. You got the Marshall Islands. All these have people, melanated people. Micronesians, the Micronesian Islands, Polynesians. All right. Guam. Well, these are so-called Negro people, as they would be classified in America as so-called Negro. And these are the Chinos we're about to read. These are the Chinos they were bringing across the Pacific, bringing them over to the colonies, the Spanish colonies in America. So these are from the Maluku Islands. This is right here, this couple, or Moluccas, and as they're called too. All right, get a great look, as you guys can see. These are not Africans. And want to show some old statues here. We're going to show a couple of them. And as you guys can see, just to compare, this is an afro they're depicting. You see the phenotype and you see the afro, right? Talking about the original people. And this is an Ainu woman from Japan. This is, again, old pictures. I colorized. I found this very old picture here from the 1800s. I colorized it. This is what we got. And it said Ainu woman. All right. The Ainu people of Japan, we know the original Aboriginal Ainu people of Japan had woolly hair, were dark complexion and everything. Another statue here, as you guys can see, compare the hair of these Buddhas. That's what you would call the woolly curly hair. Just another one right here to compare. As you guys can see, look at the hair. You see? Also the phenotype, got that Dracan look, that Dracan kind of look. We got another one right here. I mean, just look at the phenotype. That looks like a lot of people I grew up seeing in Boston. And then look at her hair. I say her, I could be a male, but look at the hair. Again, the woolly curly hair. And this is a front view of the other statue we saw. It almost looked like cornrows going back. But you guys can see, you know, use your eyes. And we got here a Champa king of the Vietnam old Champa culture. All right, and you see the phenotype. Just like when you're looking at the Olmec heads, what's the difference? You know, you look at this and, you know, you got to do the same. You got to see. And of course, you got a beard and a mustache, you see. So again, these are the people that the Sephardic, Moorish, Jewish pirates were enslaving and snatching up, buying, selling, trading all over this area right here. We're going to talk about India too, this whole area. A lot of the eastern part of India, even though they went up on this side too. A lot of this side though, on the eastern part, was raided. There's all these coastlines raided. They had help with local indigenous people who had wars with other tribes. They were already enslaving other nations and tribes on their own before the Portuguese there got, but the Portuguese and Sephardic Spanish Jews, they went really crazy with it. Remember, these are so-called black folks too, enslaving other so-called black folks. As shout out to Con Drop, as Con Drop says, more on more war. Okay, so I really want to emphasize this. I know a lot of people, when they watch these videos, a lot of people, they haven't taken the journey. We've been here 5 years, over 300 presentations. We've already debunked the out of Africa theories. Those are theories, not facts. They're basing all that stuff based on ape bones. The bones they talking about in Africa come from apes, not modern human type. They're not modern Homo sapiens sapiens. Just do the research. All right. As you guys can see, we're talking about a whole different area right here. When they told us about slavery and people getting enslaved in a transatlantic slave trade, remember? They told us it was on this side of the world, West Africa, and they were bringing all these people over here, right? They never really emphasized this side, the Pacific. They never emphasized this massive trans-Pacific slave trade. These so-called Chinos, so-called Negros, they never told us about. All right, you guys gotta break the spell. This ain't personal. You gotta graduate from 1993. Pan-Africanism, that's been debunked. You guys gotta catch up. All right, so real quick, as you guys see here, it says Flores. This is the Flores Islands. And the Flores Island people, I'm gonna show you this again, Indonesia. Let's go to a picture of the Flores Islands people real quick. It says here, Flores Islands, Indonesia, portrait of a woman with water holder on head, Leloba Larantuka, East, Nusa Tenggara, 1928. All right, so take a really good look here. As you guys can see, so-called Negro people, right? This is indigenous people of that island. Let me go back real quick, just to get a more precise. So we got the Flores Islands right here, and right here we got West Nusa Tenggara. So east, I guess, would be either right here or right here, right? So east, somewhere over here, but that's where those women are from, these women right here. Southeast Asia, as you guys can see, Southeast Asians, these are your so-called Chinos. A lot of these were being brought, we're going to read, to the Manila, the Philippines slave market before they were being brought to America. So they would be labeled Filipinos or Chinos. All right, so we're going to talk about, Filipinos as well, and how they were, how they had a huge slave market in Manila in the Philippines. Just want to remind everybody, again, we just saw some pictures of some Philippines, but I want to show some more drawings here now, get more perspective. It says here, exhibit of a racist cartoon depictions of Filipinos. All right, depictions of Filipinos. And it says here, Imperial Dreams. And you can see here the Filipino, You see how they're depicting the Filipino, right? All right, go to another image here. This again, these are Filipinos. All right, as you guys can see. Another image and drawing. So it's here Filipino Negro and Southern Negro, disfranchised Negro. And it says, make the Filipino free, give him self-government, Dr. Jekyll Bryan. And it says, the Southern Negro must not rule, he must not vote, by order of Mr. Hyde Bryan. All right, you see that? And it says, for one Negro and against the other, Dr. Jekyll Bryan and Mr. Hyde Bryan. All right, very interesting and very telling, right? And then I got another one here. This is Uncle Sam, right? It has Puerto Rico. Very interesting one. Look at Puerto Rico, right? You see how Hawaii, that's Cuba. You see all, right? As you can see, they were depicting Ladroni. It says, and Philippines right here. Philippines, Ladroni, Cuba, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, right? Also called Negros, right? Philippines included. There's another one here. It says political cartoons and Filipinos. And this one right here is the Filipinos. You can see in his feathered headdress or whatever that is from his head. Then you got Hawaii, Cuba, right? Very racist. But see how they're depicting, because they knew, right? The original Filipinos. Here's another one. It says Philippines, and it shows this guy right here. Again, not Africans. These are not Africans. This is another one. It says here, the Boston Sunday Globe, the Boston Globe, expansion before and after. And it shows the Filipino before expansion, right? And then it says the Filipino after expansion, all dressed up, right? You see how they're drawing? That's the Filipino. And shout out to 432 The Drop Radio. Learn a lot from Con Drop. Enjoying the Prester John series. Make sure you guys catch that. It's very important. I'm so wise just from following and learning and studying with him with the Prester John series. It's so deep beyond our years. It's so deep beyond my years. It's so deep. So I saw this in his series. Reminded me of this series I wanted to do, with the colorized pictures. And it says here, images from the past, stereotyping Filipino immigrants in California, all right, from the Santa Clara University. And look at the image they got here, all right? Uncle Sam holding a Filipino baby, right? A Filipino baby. Information wanted. He says, Uncle Sam, now that I've got it, what am I going to do with it? You see, they don't know. They brought them all over here. They brought who? The so-called Filipinos, so-called Negritos, so-called Chinos. We're going to read. All right, this is the Filipino. Break the spell. Because when you actually type in Filipino and you Google Filipino and you go to images, this is what they show you. And, a lot of these people trace back to the original people. But this is kind of like the image they want you to have in your head, they never show you this, right? Filipino like this. They never show you the Filipino, right? Like this. So every time you Google Filipino, this is what you get. This is the only image you get. You understand? You got to break the spell. And it's not against these people. It's just we're just trying to clear things up, and this is a whole people that are always being left out. A whole people that are always being left out. A whole history, a whole real slave trade, a whole real Middle Passage. All right, it happened. It happened. Yeah. So when I Google Filipino, and they don't show me this type of person. They never show us this type of pictures. This is a Filipino. It says here, Abago Bo Cotabato, Mindanao, from the Mindanao region in the Philippines, right? In the Philippines. Mindanao region in the Philippines. And then we got these two right here, also from the Philippines. It says Hunters with Bows and Arrows, Philippines, 1890. All right, take a very good look. As you can see, when they're drawing their little cartoons, they're not just exaggerating, they're actually depicting a Filipino. All right, that's a Filipino. All right, this is here, Philippines. Filipinos, all right? They're not exaggerating, all right? Of course, they got a little racist, right? But they're actually depicting it as the indigenous people of that area. We have here another, says here, father and son of the Philippines. As you guys can see, from the Philippines. All right, indigenous people from there, they're not from Africa. You got to break the spell. You got to break all that. There is no proof. There is no migration proof. You guys have no sources. The bones in Africa, they're trying to link humans to are actually ape bones. They're not modern humans. Spitting in a tube and doing your DNA, all that has been debunked. Alex Haley, Roots movie, that's fake. He got sued. He got debunked. You guys need to catch up if you're still talking about Pan-Africanism, because that has been debunked. Out of Africa theories. Again, this is a Filipino indigenous. They've been there. So we're gonna get into also the Hindus or Hindustan people from India, the subcontinent, Southeast Asia, India. This is a Hindu right here. As you guys can see, they don't also, when we picture Hindus, we picture something else. This is a Cheru man, Aboriginal Hindu from the Palamau region of India. All right, as you guys can see, take a good look. And then we got an Indian coolie girl in 1897, Trinidad and Tobago, as you guys can see. All right, she's from India, but she's in South America. They were brought over there. Okay, that's a coolie. And then we got from India, the Panijan region of India. We got her and her people, which says here in the picture, pre-Dravidian, before the Dravidians got to India. Her people were already there, anciently already. All right, and you see her type of hair and their type of hair. In Mexico, that became known as Chino type hair. Now we understand why. Shout out to all the Mexican brothers and sisters who told me all this information when they saw part 1 of this installment. All right, so you got to break the spells. This is actually the Chino hair with the woolly curly hair. In Mexico became known as Chino type hair. Ask the Mexicans. All right, so let's get into this book again. We saw this on part 1. It says here from the Cambridge Latin American Studies, Asian slaves in colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians, from Tatiana Cejas. Now that we just went over all those images and everything and broke down, got a better perspective, we're going to understand now when she's talking about these so-called Chinos. She's going to explain the areas and the regions they were taking these so-called Chinos from, that they were bringing to Mexico. Again, Asian slaves in colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians. Miami University, Cambridge University Press. It says here in the introduction, during the late 16th and 17th centuries, countless slaves from culturally diverse communities in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia journeyed to Mexico on the ships of the Manila Galleon. The Manila Galleon, this famous ship. Again, during the late 16th and 17th centuries. Again, I got to go over this step by step. A lot of people get confused. Even in part one, they're still resistant, not understanding what I'm saying. So let's learn what time period exactly when they're saying 16th and 17th centuries. What does that mean? It says here 16th century, right? The 16th century begins when? 1500s. 1500s. We're talking about the 1500s when they're talking about 16th century, not 1800s. Okay? Not recent. We're talking about 1500s. Who was the Spanish and the Portuguese in the 1500s? Remember from the past videos. So then we go to 17th century, and that starts when? 1601. So that's the 1600s. All right, let's go back to the book. Again, during the late 16th century, so that's the late 1500s, and the 17th centuries, right? The 1600s. So all this is before the 1700s. This is still in the 1600s and 1500s, right? What happened during that time? Countless slaves from culturally diverse communities in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, all right, not Africa, journeyed to Mexico on the ships of the Manila Galleon. On arrival in Mexico, slave owners and Spanish officials grouped them together. They grouped all these people together from all these islands, all these different tribes, all these nations I just showed you from Southeast Asia. I'm going to show you a lot more, guys. I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures today. Okay? I'm going to show you a lot of pictures of these different peoples that they grouped together, overlooked their social and linguistic differences, all right, and categorized them all as Chinos. They got categorized as Chinos. Chinos. All right, we're gonna keep going back and forth just to get a clear perspective of what we're talking about. Remember, I have images from the 1800s when cameras was invented, 1900s, right? 1800s, 1900s. So imagine 1500, 1600. This is 400 years, 300 years before that. You know it's going to just get swarthier the further back you go. You already know that. So imagine if I'm showing you people like this in the 1800s, imagine the 1500s. Remember they said from the Indian subcontinent, Hindus, they were taking them. This is a coolie girl in Martinique. This is a coolie girl in Martinique from India. She was living in Martinique. This is a Fijian from the Fiji Islands. All right, you guys can see he got his afro and everything, so-called afro, so-called, but it's a Fiji-fro. This is a family from Papua New Guinea. It's of bad quality. It was very small, but I found it, I colorized it, made it a little bigger, and this is what you get, Papua New Guinea. Again, these are not Africans. These are from Papua New Guinea. We have some Hindu people right here, some Hindu, and the women, as you guys can see, and two women and two men. It says here, 1930s photo of a Naga warrior, Philippines. And they actually do mean Naga. There is a place, Naga, in the Philippines. All right, this is an actual indigenous person from that area. I was able to find this and colorize it, and this is what we got. All right, from the Philippines, right? We just talking about the Filipino. It says here, 1940, Fiji warriors and a victim. They carrying a victim, supposedly. Look at that. That's a crazy picture if that's real. Really crazy, right? As you can see what these people look like. All right. Fijians It says Moluccas or Moluccas from the Maluku Islands. I showed you guys earlier what that was, as you guys can see. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. Look at his hair, his woolly, his what they call Mexico Chino type hair. All right, and very swarthy individuals. It says here 1946, Indian bride and groom wearing ornate headdresses posing together on their wedding day. Okay, you see? A Hindu couple. I can't see her, but you can see him. All right, look at that. Look at his headdress. Nice. Says here, portrait of a groupman of Loloda Bay. Okay, again, this is all in the Indonesian Java area, Javanese, Indonesian, Papua New Guinea, South Pacific Island, Loloda Bay. All right, these are the indigenous people from there. A lot of these people have blonde hair, as you guys can see with this guy right here. It says here, a bride showing her wedding adornment. Tanimbar, Maluku, Indonesia. You see? Indonesia. All right. Showing her wedding adornment. These are a group of chiefs in Samoa. All right. They made them a little red. All right. That's the Colorized software. But of course, you know, that's the hijack. But you know already, a couple colored tribes of the world. A couple colored tribes of the world. Samoans, those are distant cousins. I believe so, definitely. Right here it says a Notch girl, Madras, India. All right, a Hindu girl, you see? All right, now you know, I've seen this phenotype, this look in the Americas, North America, growing up in Boston a lot, you know, in different places in North America. So, you know, we got a connection there. There's definitely a connection there anciently. And when we're talking about those videos of the Maya and the Nagas and all that, just, you know, just picture all that. So you see, so you're going to see familiar faces a lot of the time here. And that's what I'm trying to point out. They never show us these type of Asians. And when they're talking about they're bringing so-called Chinos, remember, just told us all these different people with social and linguistic differences. They grouped them together and called them all Chinos. All right, we got to break the spell. This is a perspective, get a clear perspective. Dragon view, dragonfly view, 360. This is a royal person from Indonesia, it says here. All right, royal person from Indonesia. And of course, Swarthy as well. Swarthy individual. He got his gear on, royal attire, pimped out. This is a Sholaga man, 1909, from India, a Hindu, all right, from India. You see that? Very swarthy, coarse, curly, coarse hair. His people would be labeled Chinos in the 1600s, 1500s, going into Mexico. You guys understanding what I'm trying to show? These are not Africans. These are Aeta children, 1930s Philippines, the Aeta, very ancient people in the Philippines, no doubt. You know, all of them have these features with the woolly, curly hair, very swarthy. And these people were also being labeled Chinos as they were being taken in this middle passage through the trans-Pacific slave trade, colonial times. These beautiful children right here. Take a look. It says an Ayeta woman and a child from the Philippines, also from the Ayeta tribe. They are thought to be among the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines, preceding the Austronesian migrations. Before the Austronesians, these are the people who were there anciently. They're not Africans. They've been there since creation. They're original to that part of the plane, the earth, the world. So again, we come back to the book and it's telling us on arrival in Mexico, slave owners and Spanish officials grouped them together, all these different people overlooked their social linguistic differences and categorized them all as Chinos. In time, Chinos came to be treated under the law as Indians. All right, listen, the term for all native people of Spain's colonies. That's what they were calling even the indigenous people of Southeast Asia. They were just calling them Indians too. And then the indigenous people of America, they were calling them Indians too. Started grouping all these people together and became indigenous vassals of the Spanish crown after 1672. All right, talking about 1600s. The implications of this legal change were enormous. As Indians rather than Chinos, they could no longer be held as slaves. This book tracks Chinos' complex journey from the slave market in Manila, all right, Manila, slave market in Manila, Philippines, Manila, not West Africa, Manila, to the streets of Mexico City, and from bondage to liberty. The story of Chino slaves transpired during the 17th century in the expansive context of the Spanish Empire. Their experience points to the interconnectedness of Spain's colonies and the reach of the crown, which brought people together from Africa, the Americas, Asia, and Europe in a historically unprecedented way. All right, so I just want to tell people, got to dodge the hijack. And some of these writings here, the author still goes up with the out of Africa theories prescribes to it. This is an older book, and that's why when people were sending me this book, they were trying to prove me wrong, to say, look, Mongols did become Indians, but they didn't understand what they were reading, because this book specifies the locations. We're gonna see it specifies the locations where they were grabbing these people. We already read subcontinent India and Southeast Asia, all right, but they're gonna get more specific. And I'm showing you the pictures of the people that were there still in the 1800s, early 1900s, still that were there. So imagine in the 1600s. It says the book examines Chino's story in this broad framework, emphasizing that the history of coarse labor is necessarily connected to colonial expansion and forced global migration. By placing Chinos in this larger narrative, the study challenges some assumptions about the uniformity of slave experience in the Americas, especially in Mexico. The Spanish crown dictated the legal status of people living in the colonies, but the sprawling empire also allowed for contingency and individual agency. Chinos employed myriad strategies to gain some modicum of personal freedom. All right, continue here with some images real quick. And right here we have an man, a Hindu, as it says there, from the Shahabad region of India. Shahabad, all right? Ahir, from the Ahir tribe. Never heard of them, right? As you guys can see. And he's not African. Right here we have an Ainu couple from Japan. That's an Ainu couple, Ainu man here from Japan. That's an original man and woman, as you guys can see. All right, with the long beard, woolly beard. They had very coarse hair, woolly hair. The Ainu people of Japan. We got the Alifuru people, the Alifuru. They try to say these people are African just because of their very swarthy complexion. Again, from the Maluku Islands of Indonesia. All right. Remember I showed you where the Maluku Islands was? All right. Of Indonesia. Right here we have some more Ainu men from Japan. I found this picture, thought it was interesting, and I colorized it. And it just looked very interesting because I never pictured, Japanese like this. So I picture them very different. But these are the Ainu tribal people of Japan. Some original samurais right here. Talk about samurais. They got the whole gear and everything. Right here, when I started showing you another statue here. As you guys can see, just, use your eyes use your logic, use your senses. What do you see? You know, for me, it's self-explanatory. You know, just looking at it. All right, that's hair, right? Okay. And these are the Alfur or Alfuru people again. Most likely Alune people in the mountains of Seram Island, Seram. All these little island and regions in the South Pacific Indonesian archipelago, as they call it. As you guys can see, these are the indigenous people there. And these are the people again, these Sephardic, merchant, Moorish, Jewish pirates, right? Swarthy pirates. These are the ones they were again putting under forced labor, sent them to Mexico, calling them Chinos. Right here it says Sidney D. Gamble's photo of a smiling boy dressed in terribly tattered rags was taken in a town called Seoul Village, situated somewhere in Sichuan or Sichuan province. This is a Chinese, okay, a Chinese boy. We just closed in. All right. Right here we got Ambonese people from Ambon. Remember I showed you Ambon Island? Ambonese people, Maluku Island, Southeast Asia. All right, as you guys can see. And that's why when they were showing all these so-called Filipino people, I remember a lot of these people were taken to the Manila slave market first before being brought to Mexico or the Spanish colonies over there. And so a lot of them got labeled as Filipinos too, but they were from different regions. And a lot of, again, all these people got grouped together once they were in Mexico, and they were all labeled Chinos, as we just read. Chinos, all right? These are Asians, original Asians. Right here I found the old picture of in front of Angkor Wat, the temple, right? And I saw the people riding on the elephants, and they were very, very swarthy, as you guys can see. All right, look at that. The ancient people of Angkor Wat still repping, riding the elephants. Some ancient Nagas still there. I saw this one right here. I thought it was kind of cool because they did a little comparison. It says the woman on the right is representative of the Han ethnic group, today the majority population in China. I believe the Han were Swarthy too, way in ancient times though. And then it says the young Foshu field woman on the left, a field woman on the left represents one of the aboriginal peoples then living in the Fujian province. All right, that's what it keeps saying. I'm reading it as it goes, but you guys can see, wow, it even says that's the aboriginal, the Swarthier one, right? Right here we have a Bagobo Cotabato Mindao Philippine man. All right, they call him a Moro from the Philippines, a Moor from the Philippines. That's what they call him. And right here we have a Southern India man, a Southern India man. India, right? India, subcontinent India. It just told us they were grabbing the Spanish in the 16th and 17th century. That's the 1500s and 1600s. They were grabbing people like him, bringing them to Mexico and calling them Chinos. So we go back to the book, Asian Slaves in Colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians. I'm going to read here from chapter 1 real quick, little bit. It says, Catarina de San Juan, China slave and popular saint. She became a saint. She was a China slave though. China, remember who they were calling Chinos now. Now you got a clear perspective. It says around the year 1610, a young girl was seized from her homeland in South Asia and taken to the city of Puebla, Mexico. So in 1600, right? 1600, she's from South Asia. These are Swarthy people, where she became a popular saint named Catarina de San Juan. She was unique in that churchmen crusaded to canonize her as an exemplary Christian after her death, but her life trajectory closely approximated that of other Chino slaves who made the journey from Asia to Mexico in the 17th century. Again, that's the 1600s. With them, Catarina witnessed the same legal and social changes that turned all Chinos into Indians. Catarina's experience makes concretely visible the human toll of the trans-Pacific slave trade, at the same time illustrating how individuals took part in the transformation of slavery. Catarina's story is now Mexican folklore. The known outline of Catarina's life is that Portuguese slavers took her from the western coast of India. All right, she's Hindu. Catarina's Hindu. We saw the Hindus, what they look like. We saw some of the coolie girls, right? She's a Hindu. And who took her? Portuguese slavers, these merchants, Sephardic Moorish people. They took her from the west coast of India on a trading voyage that went around the subcontinent across the Bay of Bengal, through the Straits of Malacca, Malacu, the Malacca Islands, right? And up South China Sea to Manila in the Philippines. That's the slave market where they finally sold her at the market. This was the first leg of a forced journey that continued on the ship of the Manila Galleon, which carried Catarina across the Pacific to the port of Acapulco in Mexico, right? Acapulco in 1619. Look at that year. Same year they were bringing the what? The 20 odd, so-called odd Negroes to Virginia. Remember? Virginia. They were grabbing them from the exact opposite side, Veracruz, Mexico. So who knows if that was some Chinos they were actually grabbing too. Some Chinos they had grabbed from, across the country, because Mexico wasn't the final stop for a lot of these so-called Chinos. You guys got to understand, from there, they would be sent to other colonies, the Caribbean, South America, possibly even North America. The seas and oceans behind her, Catarina was then made to walk along a difficult terrain called the China Road, via the China, to Mexico City, and then on to Puebla, where she lived for the remainder of her life. Catarina's survival and success were closely tied to her ability to garner support from various patrons. Her first were a Portuguese merchant. Like I said, merchant, there you go, Portuguese merchants. Who's the merchants? You guys already know if you've been following me. And his wife, who purchased Catarina. These are so-called Negro people too, these Portuguese merchants and his wife, and who purchased Catarina to be their domestic servant. In this position, Catarina had some freedom to run errands and wander the streets of the growing city. So she was witnessed the construction of the city's famous cathedral that was consecrated in 1649. Encouraged by her masters, Catarina also attended Mass in her daily outings, finding a spiritual home in the temple of the Jesuit College in Puebla. The Jesuit College. When her masters died, having granted her liberty and their wills, all right, so she was freed, Catarina was left free but penniless, which forced her to work as a domestic servant of a neighborhood priest. Soon after, Catarina sought to take personal vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience as lay religious woman, beata, but the said priest dissuaded her from this pursuit and instead pressed her into marriage. As a result, Catarina had to wait until she was widowed to lead the religious life she so desired. When Catarina died in 1688, she was a beloved, popular saint, grieved by the residents of Puebla, where she is still remembered today. They even have a statue of her. They show it in this book. All right, so she became a saint, but this China, right, Hindu, all right, Swarthy Hindu, this Hindu woman. And it continues here saying, hagiography, writing the life of a popular saint. After Catarina's death, her confessors, Alonso Ramos and Jose de Castillo Grajeda, wrote hagiographies that provide striking details about her life and allow for a reconstruction of her historical experience. The authors employed the literary genre of hagiography, used for the lives of saints, because they thought she was a uniquely virtuous woman whose life story would edify readers. Though the two hagiographers emphasized her mystical visions and piety, they also recorded life events and referenced historical reality. Her confessors necessarily mediated Catarina's testimony as they listened and recorded her stories, but at least Castillo claimed that he sought to convey her ordinary language. Examined with care, these hagiographies present a vivid rendition of life in captivity that echoes the testimonies of other Chino slaves. Now it says here, interesting part, says Ramos' definition of the term Chino reflects a unique understanding of the Trans-Pacific slave trade and the origins of some of these people. All right, the origins. He wrote in these parts, natives of India are called Chinos. All right, Hindus were being called Chinos, like I was telling you. They all come from the Orient by way of the Philippines, brought by the Portuguese. All right, the Portuguese. Who's these Portuguese? Portuguese Jews. All right. This explanation strongly implies that most Chinos were slaves taken by Portuguese traders from South and Southeast Asia to the Spanish colony in the Philippine Islands, where they then boarded the Manila galleon bound for Mexico. Ramos knew about the workings of the trade from Catarina, who spoke to him at length about her experience. She testified that Portuguese slavers worked in the Indian Ocean world, and that the mechanisms of the Portuguese trading system reached the Spanish Philippines. These details about the trafficking networks which crisscrossed the Indian Ocean to the China Sea and Pacific Ocean were generally unknown to other people in Mexico. With this account, Ramos sought to clarify some of the contemporary confusion regarding the origin of Chinos, who were generally thought of as people born on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. The term Chino generally referred to individuals who traveled on the Nao de China, another name for the Manila galleon. That's what they were called, Chinos, because they came on the Nao de China. That was the name of the boat, the Manila galleon. They were people from the Orient who came to stay or simply passed through. Like I said, not all of them stayed in Mexico. They were just passing through. From there, they brought them to other colonies. All right, these Chinos, these so-called Swarthy Asians, so-called Negros, Swarthy Asians, they brought them to other colonies. Ramos does describe an important distinction. There were Chinos who were slaves, and there were also Chinos, generally natives of the Philippines, who were free immigrants, itinerant traders or sailors. All Chinos traveled to Mexico on the same ships of the Manila galleon. The slaves, like Catarina, generally stayed, whereas free Chinos had more mobility. The presence in Mexico of free immigrants from the Philippines added further complexity to questions regarding where Chinos came from and who they were. Ramos makes several comments about countrymen from the Philippines who lived in Puebla. According to Spanish law, these native people were indigenous vassals. According to Spanish law, what? They became what? Indigenous vassals, just like the natives of Mexico. They were Indians who owed tribute to the crown in exchange for certain rights and protections. In Mexico, the natives of the Philippines were called Filipinos, Indian Chinos, referring to their legal status as indigenous vassals, as well as simply Chinos. This confusing nomenclature caused some problems in Mexico, as free natives of the Philippines were sometimes confused with Chino slaves and treated as such. They didn't matter. For the most part, however, their presence in Mexico encouraged officials to conceive of all Chinos as free Indians. Catarina's hagiographers express an ambiguity about her birthplace that reflect the diverse origins of Chino slaves. Catarina could not remember her origins because slavers stole her away when she was just a little girl, dragging her through distant provinces and confusing her sense of place. One possibility is that she was from Surat, as Portuguese traders controlled that port before 1615, which was when she was kidnapped. According to Ramos' account, she was a poor girl from China, Mogor, or India, picked from among the thorny bushes and hidden jungles of Cambaya and Bengal. They're talking about India. From the perspective of people living in Mexico, King China and Mungal India were apparently indistinguishable as faraway places where Chinos came from. So to Mexicans, it was all the same, from China to India to Vietnam to, it was like all, to them it was all Chinos. Philippines, Papua New Guineas, to them they were all just Chinos. Catarina's testament from 1686 recorded a similar conflation of geographic areas. It reads, Catarina de San Juan, natives of the Mungal Kingdom in the Philippines Islands. Catarina dictated the will, so the notary was the likely author of this geographic reference rather than something she actually thought. Either way, it reflects the contemporary tendency to combine unknown regions. The difficulty of identifying Catarina's birthplace points to a broader methodological problem for the study of Chino slaves. Slave deeds only rarely specify the individual's origin. One example is a slave named Antonio de Silva, who was identified as a Creole from Goa. Instead, most slave deeds simply stated where the slave was last purchased, usually in Manila, with no reference to the person's birthplace, all right? So a lot of these people, again, guys paying attention, is that they were coming from these other islands, Papua New Guinea, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, the Maluku Islands, Borneo, Bali, India, and because they were sold, because their last place of record was in Manila or the Philippines, that's where people jotted them down as being born in Manila or Filipinos, right? Our understanding of Chino slaves' varied origins is therefore obscured by the surviving documentation, which suggests that many of them were from Manila, which they weren't. The hagiographies about Catarina are all the more important than for what they tell us about people's different paths to the Manila slave market. The description of Catarina's capture exposes the Portuguese as having taken an active role in enslaving people, all right? These Portuguese Sephardic Moorish people, yes, they had an active role in this. When she was about 9 years old, some Portuguese men came upon her on the beach where she was playing with her other children. The men took them hostage and then sailed to a distant place where, assured that no one would take away their prey, leap on shore and disembark the stolen prisoners and goods. Based on her own experience, it is understandable that Catarina thought that all the Portuguese in Asia sailed the seas and lands in the condemnable pirating of goods and people. All right, so returning to the pics here, we have two musicians shown here posed with a Chinese moon guitar. Yu Qin and a violin offer a somewhat more organic contrast of the two very different physical traits. 1869, this is in Canton, aka Guangzhou, Guangdong province. All right, as you guys can see, they look a little bit different, but as you guys can see, she's also not really pale skin, she is a little dark. The man right here looks very different than her, but he's also from China. Right here we have a photo of a Taiwanese member of the indigenous community. All right, this is from Taiwan. Again, these are old pictures like colorized. This is a Taiwanese or Taiwan indigenous man wearing what is thought to be a Formosan clouded leopard pelt. Was taken by Japanese anthropologist Tori Rizzo circa 1900, University of Tokyo. All right, again, a man from Taiwan, Swarthy, Taiwanese, original, indigenous Taiwanese. Here we have Bagobo group, Cotabato, Mindanao, Philippines. All right, Filipinos, very swarthy Filipinos, a lot of them with the woolly hair, or what you call afros. Got another Bagobo warrior from Mindanao, Philippines. All right, from the Philippines, as you guys can see, his woolly, curly hair. All right, very swarthy complexion, Filipino. Right here, we're in Bali for a Balinese festival. A Balinese festival, these are Bali indigenous people from Bali. As you can see how they look. All right, again, a lot of the images they never show us. If you Google Bali right now, you'll see what you get. So we get the image we're usually accustomed to seeing when we Google Asians or anybody from this region of the world. But I want to show you right here, as you guys can see, they're actually showing some of the original people. You see her and you see her. All right, and it says here photos of people and children in Bali. All right, Bali, Indonesia. So here and there they might show a couple of the Swarthy indigenous people from Bali, but in general they try to show us a different image, right? Like always, go back to the images, and this is again from Bali. You see how they look? A Balinese festival. This is an old picture, colorized. Right here we have a Batak family, circa 1870. Batak. Real quick, Batak people, Filipinos, right? The Batak are one of about 140 indigenous peoples, 140 in just in the Philippines alone. They are located in the northeastern portions of Palawan, a relatively large island in the southwest archipelago. Since ancient times, the Batak have inhabited a series of river valleys along the coastlines of what is today Puerto Princesa City. All right, since ancient times, the Batak people of the Philippines, this is them right here, as you guys can see. All right, here they are right here. Exact same picture in Wikipedia. These are the Batak people of the Philippines. Again, these are not Africans. They've been there since ancient times, since the beginning. All right, it's conjecture to say they are from Africa just because they look like this. It says Batak woman in Sumatra, but she's in Sumatra. All right, so she maybe was taken there. It says resting on the notch log, which serves as a ladder to her house. Okay, a Batak woman. All right, you see what she looks like, right? Again, Asians, so-called black Asians. Very interesting photo here. It says here a woman playing the pipa or Chinese lute as her son stands behind with his head lowered was featured in illustrations of China and its people. All right, that's where it's from. And again, that's her right here. She looks a lot like a lot of North American women I've seen growing up in Boston. All right, you know, I know she has the Asian look, but she also has that other look I'm very familiar with. And again, we're not used to seeing Chinese people like her, right? But this is a full Chinese, full blood. All right, playing her instrument. Right here we have a Southern Indian man. This is from a Hindu from India, Southern India, an ancient Naga descendant. All right, take a good look. This is an Indian Hindu. This is a Hindu. Now, supposedly when Columbus came here, he called us Indians, right? This is the Indian he was used to. These are the Hindus or Indians he was used to. So now you put it together. All right, you put it together now. He was not lost. He knew he was an India superior. The three Indies, there was not just one India. India today, the Republic of India, just got its name in the 1900s. It was called Hindustan. It wasn't called India that much, okay? And this is an Indian, a Hindu Indian. All right, so that picture and many other pictures of the Southern Hindu tribes can be found in this volume series, Castes and Tribes of Southern India. There's actually many volumes of this, and they got a lot of the pictures in there. This is in volume 3, just for example. We're gonna go into it real quick. And you guys can see right there we have, all right, remember this is from India, Southern India, Kadir, it says here. And here goes the picture I was just showing you guys, all right? Let me just show you guys. He's from Kadir. Now in the same book, let me just read a little bit of the Kadirs. And we're learning about these people. It says the Kadirs or Kadans, Adans, Kadir or Adans, Kadans or Dans, inhabit the Anai Malai or Elephant Hills and the great mountain range which extends southward into Travancore. All right, so this Hindu man I was just showing you guys in color, all right, as you guys can see in the book, he's a Kadir, a tribal person. Kadir, he is from the Kadir tribe. You guys never heard of them, right? This is a Hindu from the Kadir tribe, and he would have been called a Chino when he was brought to Mexico, 1600s, 1700s. Chino, a Hindu, he got the Chino hair from the Kadir tribe. All right, so here he is in color again, you guys can see. That's where I got the image. You guys can see I'm not just making this up. This is not an African. This is a Hindu, and he's not from Africa. He's not African. Right here we have a picture of some boys from North Sumatra, all right? Southeast Asia, North Sumatra, the Sumatra Island, right? North Sumatra. Do you see? What do you see here? Swarthy little boys, so-called Negros, right? 6 of them here from Sumatra, the indigenous people of Sumatra. All right, and right here we have Cambodian princesses, all right? Cambodian princesses, all right? Let me just show you, zoom in. Again, the original Cambodians, the actual story of the original first inhabitants of Cambodia are the actual ancient mythical Nagas. That's the story of the original, most ancient people of Cambodia. Was started with a Naga queen. A Naga queen. I've read this and shown this in previous videos. We've read that. And so here are some descendants of some of the ancient Nagas. And as you guys can see, very swarthy, very swarthy. So zoom out again, you guys can see the whole gear. All right, princesses from Cambodia. Says here, this is the celebrated Dato Mundi, upon whom honors were conferred by the Queen Regent of Spain. This is in the Philippines, all right? Dato Mundi from the Philippines. He might be a royal descendant blood there, all right? And these are his probably servants or soldiers, bodyguards. As you guys can see, very swarthy people, so swarthy. All right, so real quick, we're gonna just show a picture from Ceylon. Where is Ceylon? Ceylon is right here in Sri Lanka, all right? Sri Lanka. We're gonna see a lot of the Ceylon people too today. Original people of Sri Lanka, as you guys can see where it is, right under India, all right? So again, we just saw a lot of the pictures from these places. Cambodia, right? Cambodia, we just saw the Cambodian princess. All right, so back to Ceylon, Sri Lanka. I'm gonna show you a picture right now. All right, so these are Ceylonese girls from Sri Lanka, all right? From Sri Lanka, as you guys can see. Again, these are not Africans. I know it's hard for a lot of you to let go of that, and you guys take this so personal every time I say this. And if you're new again to my channel, this is the first video you're watching, or you're new to the channel, you've only been here a couple videos. We've been here 5 years, over 300 presentations. We've already debunked the out of Africa theories. Those are theories based on ape bones. They're basing out of Africa theories based on Darwinism, evolution. If you believe in Pan-Africanism and out of Africa, then you have to believe in Darwinism, because that's what they base it off. They're basing off that the oldest humans come from Africa because they found bones, right? They're trying to link you to bones, which are apes. They're not even modern humans. They're not modern humans. Everything and everyone did not come out of Africa. You guys gotta really get that in your head, all right? Melanated people all over the earth, all over the world, indigenous, okay, to the world. And they didn't just come out of Africa, and it wasn't about Pangea or continents being together and everybody still from Africa. You guys gotta let that go. That's conjecture, and you're talking about millions and millions of years ago. So you're using a lot of conjecture. While we're looking at images of Ceylon, as it says here, take a good look. These are the Ceylonese indigenous women, all right? Again, remember, these pictures are from the 1800s. So imagine what they look like in the 1500s and 1600s when Spain and Portuguese merchants, pirates, Sephardic, Jewish, Moorish pirates were taking these people to the Americas. Take a good look. A whole Middle Passage that they never really emphasized on or told us about. And we're leaving these people out of history. And we have no pity for what happened to these people. We only think about a fake Middle Passage. These are children from Papua New Guinea. All right, there's a type. And there's other different types we're gonna see in Papua New Guinea, but these are children from Papua New Guinea. Look at this one. Cutie, he's smiling, he's having a fun day. With the picture, at least I don't look like the rest of them are. They got forced. He He's looking at somebody else, so they're trying to distract him, make him smile. He probably didn't want to be there either. But look at these beautiful children with their tribal gear, their jewelry and beads. Look at that, adornments. Wow. Right here we have some more children. This time it's in Bali again. We're in Bali, Balinese children in an ancient temple here from their ancestors, chilling in front of the temple of their ancestors right here. Some Balinese Bali children. It's a very old, very small picture. I had to make bigger when I colorized, so it looks a little pixelated. They didn't care to preserve them correctly, and when they put them on the internet, as you guys saw on Wikipedia we saw earlier, they just put them very bad quality, so you don't really make out what these people look like. You're just picturing light-skinned Asians, right? Right here we have some children, more children, in their tribal dress from Indonesia. Indonesia in their tribal dress from Indonesia. You see her, what she looked like? Look at the gear they got on, especially her. Look at her. She's, wow. I mean, just look at the clothing, their styles, the art, the designs on their clothes. Okay. Again, some children from Indonesia. Very Swarthy. So Swarthy. And right here we have a Coolie family in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad, a Coolie family. So Hindus that were brought over to South America. All right, this is them in Trinidad. It says a family in the Coolie village, Trinidad. The Coolie village in Trinidad. If you guys know the history, you guys know what I'm talking about. So again, a Coolie, a Hindu people, this is what they look like. So remember Katarina, we just read earlier, Katarina, the girl who was taken as a baby, she was Hindu. All right, she was Hindu. This is another Hindu girl, a Coolie girl in Georgetown, Demerara. Georgetown, is that Guyana? Georgetown, yep, Georgetown, South America. Another Coolie, a Hindu. All right, as you guys can see, with her traditional clothing on and her jewelry and everything. They love to wear jewelry, on their nose and everything. They're always rocking it, looking fabulous. Some more Coolie women in Trinidad. All right, they're in Trinidad, again, Hindus that were brought over as indentured servants over to Trinidad. This is in the 1800s, but back when we're talking about in the 1600s, 1500s, they were actually being forced without the indenture, most of them, but in the 1800s, they had already made it illegal, so they try to use their encomienda indenture servitude system to continue to bring these people. Right here we have a Cotabato man, again, from the Philippines, Mindanao, Philippines, all right? He is referred to as a Moro from the Philippines or a Moor from the Philippines. Literally, like when I was looking for these pictures, that's what they were classifying these people as, Moros from the Philippines, Moors from the Philippines. And again, not Africans. He's not African at all. Right here, we have a Dayak warrior. This is a postcard, British North Borneo, all right? Borneo, the island of Borneo, okay? The island of Borneo. All right, so where is Borneo? Borneo. All right, so it's gonna bring us over to Borneo right now. Where is Borneo? Not too far, it's right here, this big island. It's a pretty big island. You see all the towns and everything. Can you imagine all the tribal people just in this island alone? So again, we have a young man here, a Dayak warrior from the Dayak tribe in Borneo. What I want you to take a look at is check out his tattoos. Look at his tattoos. Also emphasize his hat, looking like a turban, looking much like what the Seminoles and a lot of the southeastern North American tribes wore. All right, you guys know what I'm talking about. Show you many Seminoles with this type of hat. Look at the feathers, and look at the feather. Is there an ancient connection to the Americas? And I would say, no doubt about it. Who are the ancient Nagas? It says right here, John Thompson's photo of a says here, John Thompson's photo of a family partaking of a meal was taken in 1869 in the Kowloon area of Hong Kong. All right, this is in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, right? Some swarthy Asians here in Hong Kong. Look at her phenotype. Right here we have a Devadasi Indian woman. The Devadasi, as I was reading and learning, was these special dancing women. They were like royal dancers, all right? Very popular amongst their people. The Devadasi Indian women. The Devadasi, this is a very old and small picture that I found, but you can see what she looks like, all right? And right here it says, this young girl in this photograph taken by French photographer René Tetard. The photo was taken in Lao Cai, an old town located in the Tonkin region of mountainous northern Vietnam. Vietnam. This is an indigenous woman from Vietnam. Take a good look at her. All right? Vietnamese. This is a Vietnamese. All right? I'm going to try to find more pictures of Vietnam, Cambodia, China, all these places in the northern part of the Pacific, right? East Pacific. So we're going to get more pictures of them and try to colorize them. But this was a good one I found. This is from Vietnam. This is recorded. Again, look it up, from French photographer René Tetard. All right, a young girl from Vietnam. Look at her. All right, look at that so-called Negro. Okay, ancient Naga descendant, still living in Vietnam in the 1800s. Still in Vietnam. So I grew up in Boston, so I grew up with a lot of Vietnamese in my neighborhood. Very big population and community there in Boston, and this is not what I saw growing up, you know, when I pictured Vietnamese. All right, what am I talking about? Well, let me show you. All right, so again, if I put Vietnamese people on Duck or Google and I hit images, this is the images we get. All right, again, this is what they want us to picture when we think of Vietnamese people, right? This is how they're supposed to look only, right? That's why they gave us these search results. Now, I grew up in Boston. You know, again, they leave out a lot of the pictures and a lot of the other people, a lot of the indigenous people from Vietnam, and a lot of them, most of them were swarthier back in the 1800s. Let me go back to the pic from Lao Cai, that's her town, in the Tonkin region of the mountainous northern Vietnam. All right, this is a Vietnamese indigenous woman. Right here we have a Dikshitar Brahmin from India, again from southern India. Again, this pic is from that book I showed you guys earlier, Caste and Tribes of Southern India. This is a man from there, as you guys can see, so-called Negro. All right, and again, in the States, they will call him an African American, right? And he ain't even African. He's from India. He's Hindu. And his ancestors do not come from Africa. That is conjecture. Break the spell. And just so you guys don't think I'm making this up and showing you Africans. Again, Dikshitar, right? Dikshitars or Tilai Vaz, Atanar, a Vedic Shaiva Brahmin servitor community of Tamil Nadu. And look at that temple there in Tamil Nadu that was built by his ancient ancestors. That's who built that, who are based mainly in the town of Chidambaram. He's from Chidambaram. You see that temple, ancient temple there? Smarta, especially the Vadamas, Sri Vaisnava, and the other Brahmins in South India also carried the surname Dikshitars, but are different from the Chidambaram Dishitar. They are an exclusive group of Brahmins learned in the Vedas and Jagnas. This is a Brahmin sacrifices who also serve as the hereditary trustees of the Nataraja temple in Chidambara. All right, he is the hereditary. These are his people who built this temple. Ancient Nagas, these are his people. You guys understanding what I'm showing you guys? All right, who built this pyramid? Who taught them? Who's the Maya? Did they go over to India and become the Nagas? Who built this? They credit most of these temples to the Nagas. So again, this person right here, he's the hereditary trustee of the Nataraja temple. They are also called Tilai Muva Jirabar of the 3000 of Tilai. Every Dikshitar, once he is married, becomes as of right a trustee and Arkaka of the Nataraja temple. A practice unique to the community is that the priests wear the tuft of hair in front of the head, similar to the Nambutriri Brahmins of Kerala. All right, and again, doesn't that also look like an Egyptian hairstyle? So where did the Egyptians really get it from? Where did the Egyptians really get it from? Shout out Professor Le Plongeon, right? We read Queen Mu and how he explains how the Mayas went over to India, Hindu, Cambodia first, and then from there they went over to Egypt. So look at this hairstyle, right? That we only knew about from looking at Egyptian drawings and statues, right? But look, they were wearing this in India, and look what an Indian looks like who built those temples. All right, so I wanted to get a quick brief history of the Dikshitars Brahmins. All right, you guys read all that history, right? That's his people who built that temple, his people, and they're the guardians of it today, probably still. Again, this picture's from the 1800s, so I don't know if they're still running it, if they're still there deep. Hopefully they still are, but again, break the spells. This is a Hindu. When he would have been called a Chino, we read that earlier, he would have been called a Chino. He would have been grouped together. They would have all been grouped together, all these diverse cultures, as Chinos. Here we have some more Dayak warriors from Borneo. Remember we saw some earlier with the turban on and the feathers looking like the Seminole hats, remember? These are from Borneo. Again, Dayak warriors. You guys can see Dayak warriors, Borneo. So I hope you guys enjoying the presentation. We're going to continue with the pics here. And right here we have an East Indian basket seller. She is in America, South America, I believe, or Trinidad, somewhere there. So again, this is a coolie, as she would be referred to, as you guys can see. So-called Negro woman or girl. All right, and this is a Hindu making baskets and selling them for a living. So take a good look here. Trying to make a living here in the Americas, right? Right here we have another East Indian family in America. I believe this is in Trinidad or Guyana or actually Suriname. I did find a lot of them from Suriname, one of those three places. And I just want you to look, how they look. And again, these are Hindu East Indians. They would be referred to as Chinos in the 1500s, 1600s. By the time 1800s came, they were indentured servants, and they were being referred to as coolies or Hindus. But I just want you to have, take a good look at these people. Look at her with her gear. Look at her man, I guess, right? And then her. Now picture this. You got any of these two people, coming and mixing, marrying indigenous American people that are also Swarthy, so-called Negro people. They have offsprings. A couple generations go by, and they might forget that at some point in their line they were coming from India and they were Hindus, right? So I just want to emphasize that we got to stop generalizing, and we really got to embrace and be open-minded to the idea that you might have more than just indigenous American blood. You might have Hindu blood, Southeast Asian Pacific blood, especially when you're in these areas of South America and the Caribbean, Central America. They brought a lot of these people over there. So, just leave that open, have an open mind. Just look at these people. You wouldn't be able to tell them apart after a while, especially if they're mixing with other so-called Negroes. Here we have another East Indian woman. This is from Trinidad, all right? From Trinidad and Tobago. Take a good look at her. This was an old and very small picture, so I had to fix it up a little bit and make it bigger so it looks a little pixelated. But look at her earring coming to her nose. The picture's not too good, but beautiful woman. You put her in the hood, some modern clothes and everything, you would think she's from America. You wouldn't even hesitate to say, hey, are you a Hindu? Are you from India? And that's all I'm just trying to point out. I'm not saying you guys are from Hindu. I just want to point out, you got to leave that open. Have an open mind. A lot of these people being brought in, especially from the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, they might have eventually made it to North America as so-called Negroes, right? That they were supposedly replacing the indigenous labor. These might have been some of the people, and they could have mixed in with American Indians. And right here we have some more East Indians or Hindus aka coolies, and this is in Guyana, in South America. Guyana, South America. These are East Indians in Guyana. East Indians in Guyana. Again, these people would have been called Chinos back in the 1500s, 1600s when they were bringing them in from Manila. Slave market, Philippine slave market. Right here we have a father and son from the Tanimbar region of the Maluku Islands in Indonesia. All right, father and son, looking very different. Got to see the mom. He probably looks like the mom a lot when talking about his phenotype, his nose and everything, because it doesn't look much like his dad. But you guys can see Swarthy people, all right, in Indonesia, and he got a turban on. And this is an awesome pic. Wanted to definitely find another Fiji with a so-called Afro pic, right, fixing up their hair, and I found this one awesome, as you guys can see. All right, you see her hair, the woolly curly hair. All right, this is a Fijian woman. The Fijians rock the afros so much. Where is the afro really coming from? Should it be called afro, or should it be called Fiji fro? You know, they've been rocking this since ancient times, the fros. All right, so where does that style really come from? And of course, people who had this type of hair in America and grew it long and probably did the same. You know, I'm just saying that the Fijians, this was part of their culture. They did it, they rocked it, they embraced it. Take a good look at that. Take a good look. This is an Asian, South Pacific. And again, her people would have been called Chinos. Yeah, with that fro. That fro type hair in Mexico became known as Chino hair. We got some more Fijis here. I'm going to show you a couple Fijis. Again, you see their hairs, right? This is Fijians from 1881. The Viti Levu Highlands, the Fiji Islands, indigenous people from there, so-called Negro. And again, these are not from Africa. They don't descend from Africa just because they look like this. You guys got to stop that and stop giving opinions and believing everything they told you in school without doing proper research or proper genealogy. We're looking at Fijians from 1880s. Now imagine Fijians in the 1500s or 1600s, 300 years before that. You don't think they were Swarthy too? Another Fiji Islander, as you guys can see. Sometimes they rock their hair like that too. But you can see a descendant of the ancient Fiji people right here. Right here we have another Fiji Island native. Again, these are old pics I colorized, so these are very old. Just look at how he's rocking his hair. Like I told you guys, that was part of their culture. That was part of their culture. All right? Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Again, this is an Asian. Right here we have some Fiji Island women, and these are like, you know, dressed up more. They're not in their like tribal. They might be part of the wealthier class or the upper class in Fiji. All right, or some princesses, you never know, dressed up. Again, these are women from the Fiji Islands. All right, so-called Negro women. Some more Fiji Islanders. Okay, colorized. These are very old pictures. You know, I was able to find. Look at his hair, how he's rocking it perfect. Look at him. He got it styled up like spikes and stuff. Like, nice. I told you, this is part of their culture. You know, part of their culture. Not from Africa. This is not an African thing. You find this more in the South Pacific Islands. Another Fiji man here. All right, let me zoom in with his staff or horn or instrument or weapon. I don't know. I haven't done the research. Look at his hair, how he styled it. Nice. And these are feathers, I believe, coming up. Some feathers. All right, rocking the feathers. What does that tell you? Where's the connection to Amaruka? The Amaru Khans. Another Fiji man. It says here, Fiji warrior. A Fiji warrior. I mean, just look at their tribal gear. Pretty awesome. You know, they get creative on their own and make their own jewelry and everything. All right, look at his phenotype and his hair. Again, from Fiji Islands. These are the people they were grabbing from the Southeast Asia, Indian subcontinent, as we read earlier. And they were grouping together as Chinos, classifying them as Chinos, and eventually many as Indians. This is another Fiji woman. All right, take a good look. Again, these are colorized pictures we found, old pictures from archived websites. And this is a Fiji woman, all right, so-called Negro, Fiji Islander. We have some more Fijian men working as laborers. This is in 1884 in the Rua province, all right? Laborers, Fijian men, laborers. Take a good look at them, how they look, right? Look at that. Ancient people of Fiji. And here we have some more Fijian women. And look how they're rocking their fros. This is what I'm saying. This is part of their culture. These people rocked it more than Africans. It's their style. It's their style. Look at this. And look at their clothing, their tribal gear. Again, Fiji women in ceremonial traditional clothing. And right here we have a Hindu girl, right? A girl from India, right? An Indian, a Hindu. Look at her. So swarthy. She looks like a lot of the North American women I grew up seeing in Boston and everything. You know, what is the difference? You know, what is the connection here with the ancient Nagas and the Mayas? What is the connection with the Amaru Khans and the Nagas? There's a big connection there. And let's not forget about these people. They went through their own Middle Passage. They had to go through indentured. They came to the Americas, and they're almost literally forgotten their whole history. And eventually they were called Africans too. They were eventually, their history was erased. They were called Africans. Anybody with her complexion was grouped together as Negro and African Americans. A whole people's history being erased as well. Awesome pic right here. This girl is from Sumatra, Indonesia. They wore these type of headgears. All right, look at her clothing, her beads, rocking it really good, right? This tribal gear, looking like one of the Star Wars characters from a different planet, right? But that's what I'm saying. Where do they get the ideas in those movies, right? It's from the tribal people of this earth. All right. And again, a whole history being erased, a whole people being erased and being called Africans, just like you. Here we got a girl in Ceylon, Sri Lanka. Remember Sri Lanka, that's under India. So that's why she may look a little Hindu. She might also be from India and being brought to Ceylon as a servant, but this is what Ceylon people look like too. All right. And again, they rocked so much jewelry, a lot of earrings, nose rings, a lot of that with this culture, right? Let's not forget these people and what they went through. All right, so real quick, we return now to the book Asian Slaves in Colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians. Okay, you guys starting to understand who they're really talking about? Remember, we're talking about the 1500s and 1600s, Southeast Asia, Maluku Islands, the Philippines, India, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, Papua New Guinea. We're going to read a little bit of chapter 2 real quick. All right, it says here, chapter 2, the diversity and reach of the Manila slave market. The story of the people who journeyed from the Philippines to Mexico begins in 1565, 1500s, guys, when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi finally realized Spain's long-standing ambition of establishing a colony in Asia. Geronimo Pacheco, originally from the Eastern Islands and a native of Bengal, all right, this guy, a native of Bengal, he's Hindu, accompanied Legazpi on his founding voyage. So this guy's kind of helping the Portuguese, right? Pacheco had been made to travel from Bengal to Portugal and across the Atlantic to Mexico, where he was assigned the task of following the religious and people going to the Occidental islands. They needed an interpreter who was native of those islands, you see? So he was with them, this guy. His journey with Legazpi was a harbinger of what came afterwards. The forced migration of enslaved people from Asia to America, who crossed the Pacific Ocean in the service of European masters. The foundation of the Spanish Philippines gave rise to the Trans-Pacific slave trade. Trans-Pacific, it's not transatlantic. I think it was actually more from this side especially early on, of 1500s, 1600s, guys, that they were actually bringing these so-called other Negroes or so-called Indians. Remember, they were eventually becoming Indians. The slave trade began soon after conquest and with considerable controversy. In 1570, Don Martin Enriquez de Almanza, the viceroy of New Spain, ordered the return of 15 slaves who had recently arrived from the Philippines. In his words, it was unwise for the natives of the Philippines to think that we consent to their ill treatment. Filipino Indians could potentially rebel against Spanish sovereignty if they realized that the colonists planned to sell them into slavery and ship them into Mexico. All right, there's footnotes here. There's a lot of sources for this. In addition, the viceroy feared that the few slaves who were Muslims or Moros, look at that, Moors, would dogmatize their sect among the Indians of Mexico and endanger the missionary project. The viceroy's efforts to discourage this commerce were in vain. Slaves purchased in Manila were sent to Mexico throughout the 17th century, 1600s, throughout the whole 1600 years, right? And then they were doing it in the 1500s too. So that's 200 years, right? And look at this. This book is going to tell you, and this is what I've been trying to show you guys this whole time, even on part one, but I didn't really emphasize it. I want to show you guys that this book is literally telling you where these people were taken from. You guys got to pay attention, all right? It says birthplace mentioned in this book, the Ambon, Borneo, Java, Makassar, the Maluku Islands, Indonesia, Bengal, that's India, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, India, and some Japan. We did see some Ainu, right? The Macau, China, Malacca, Malay, Malaysians, Muslim Philippines, Jolo, Mindanao, Zamboanga, Spanish Philippines, Cagayan, Calamian, Camarin, Cavite. I showed you guys all these islands. All right, so we got Borneo right here, right? Maluku Islands. All right, here's Telek Ambon. The Ambon is the Maluku Islands, right? They just showed us Maluku, as you guys can see, Maluku Islands, right? This is where they were grabbing from. Sri Lanka, Ceylon, Borneo, Bali, Java down here, Java, Bali. All right, Sumba, Timor Island, Malaysia, right? Malaysia, Sumatra, Sri Lanka, and India, right? That's where they're grabbing these people from. They're not from up here. They're not all mostly Chinos or up here Koreans or anything like that, right? They were coming down here first, down here, and grabbing people. These are all so-called Negro people, Negroes. Get it in your head, Negroes that they were bringing over to Mexico and the Americas and calling them Chinos. And eventually a lot of these people became classified as Indians or Indios over in America, becoming mixed and confused with the actual Indios or indigenous Indians of America. All right, so the book is clearly telling us where they're grabbing these people from. You guys got to pay attention to that. All right, these are all Negro people, black folks. And there's a map of what I just showed you. Borneo, Brunei, look at them, Philippines, Maluku Islands, Timor, Macau. These are just some of the regions they mentioned, but they were grabbing people from all over, even the white, where it says white regions here, all of that. I got pictures from all these places. Chino slave origins. Pay attention. Chino slave origins. These are not Chinos how we think Chinos. These are black folks. These are so-called Negroes. Chino slave origins. You guys understanding now? You guys got to stop that prejudice stuff. And a lot of you send me this book to try to debunk me. You guys failed miserably. You guys were sending me this book all these years. Kurimeo, why you never read this book? Proving that the Mongols are the Indians. They became Indians. You guys have been brainwashed to think that Asians look a certain way and that the word Chino is supposed to look a certain way. Maybe in modern times, but not in the 1500s and 1600s, all right? Again, Chino slave origins. These places right here that was filled with so-called Negro people they were bringing to the Americas. These weren't Africans they were bringing, these slave trades. They were coming from Asia, actually. A whole history that wasn't told to us in our school systems. Shame on you, teachers, for teaching wrong history if you're still doing it. Say something. Speak up. Change the curriculums. Stop teaching lies to the children. And again, that figure of the map says Chino slave origins, map prepared by Eric Johnson, Numeric and Spatial Data Services Librarian, Miami University. They did the research. You guys got to understand, this is real history. Continues, says this chapter is about the Manila slave market and the indigenous Filipinos, Muslim war captives, and other people who were sold there. It is a starting point for understanding the origins and ancestry of Chino slaves who lived in Mexico. Manila was a slave society during the 17th century, right? 1600s. Slaves did the majority of the labor, and master-slave relations shaped the general social order. Within years after the Spanish conquest, the bustling port city had some 40,000 residents of diverse origins. A full quarter of this population was enslaved. They were craftspeople, manual laborers, and servants who upheld their masters' social stature. By the 1620s, the city had 8,000 indigenous slaves and 2,000 foreign slaves, in addition to an untold number of Muslim slaves. The whole of the city was a slave market, supplying labor to Spanish colonists and indigenous elites. Even their own people were enslaving them. Slave auctions were held in the plazas found within the city's walls. All right, they never showed us none of this. They never told us. They always wanted us to think this was happening in West Africa, when it really wasn't that much. It was really happening over here and in Europe. And masters also sold slaves through individual transactions. The unorganized nature of the market makes it nearly impossible to quantify the volume of sales, but it is clear that Manila was an emporium for slaves. Masters from throughout the Spanish Philippines knew to come to the capital to secure chattel property. Philippines, right? We saw so many Philippines and all the people that were being brought to the Philippines so far already in these pictures. All the same people they're talking about here. This is the same people they were bringing to the Philippines, Manila. All those pictures I just showed you guys, right? Don't get lost. These are the same people they're talking about. They were bringing to the Americas as so-called Chinos. All right, so let's continue with the pictures real quick before we continue with the book. So just to keep getting a reference of what they're talking about. These are the people right here. As you can see, it says here, girls dressed for the harvest or New Year's party in honor of the ghost. Headdress on forehead in the shape of the moon or horns. This is from Indonesia. All right, these are Indonesians. Check it out. All right, again, not Africans, and these are the people, as they were mentioned in the book, a lot of their people were being enslaved, okay, and brought to Mexico as Chinos. A lot of them becoming Indios, Indians. Right here we got some Golas, some low-caste Hindu tribe in Rajputana region of India. Now, very interesting name, Golas, huh? Golas, Gula, Golas, Gula, Gula, Gola. What's the difference? Gula, Gola is one letter difference. Gula, Gola. Could there be a connection with the Gula of America? Gola, Gula. Right here we have a group of Tiruraye women from the Cotabato, Mindanao region of the Philippines, 1901. And again, these people were being called Moros or Muslims, Moros, Moors. These people were being called Moors in this area. This is a really cool picture I found. It was very old, very small. I, made it bigger, colorized it, fixed the pixelation a little bit so it can look, so we can see what's going on in the picture. As you guys can see, it says here, headhunter from Papua New Guinea, Southeast Asia. Papua New Guinea headhunter, huh? Just zoom in a little bit, right? This is what he looks like. Look at the feathered crown, right? And then look what he's carrying here. It looks like he has an actual head. An actual head. Look at that. A headhunter from Papua New Guinea. Could that be a real head? Most likely. Most likely. Right here we have a Hindu elderly woman from India. All right. Just look at her. Look like a lot of people's grandma to me. Beautiful elderly woman from India. Okay. Majestic picture. We got here Sakunath, that's her name, Sakunath, the British West Indies. She is in Suriname. I believe I got this picture from Coolie Hindu woman, all right, named Sakunov. Sakunov. Look at her smiling, rocking her jewelry and her gear, looking fabulous, right? It says here we have a Hindu man and a child in Suriname, South America. He's blind, a blind Hindu beggar, I believe it says when I translated it, and a child. Again, this is in Suriname. These are Hindus, Indian people from Hindustan living in Suriname, all right? Trying to survive. So take a good look. So-called Negro people, right? In Suriname, there are not indigenous Indians or Arawaks, right? Caribs, they're actually Hindus. We got another Hindu woman right here. I'm glad I was able to find a lot of these pictures so you guys can see when they're talking about they're bringing Hindus or Indian or people from Manila. And again, I'm reminded of Catarina's story we read earlier, how she was taken from India and she became a saint in Puebla, Mexico. All right, she was referred to as China, but she was from India. And this is what the Indians look like. Female Indian, all right? So-called Negro woman. And again, another Hindu woman, young woman named Unobia. Her name is Unobia. She's in Suriname, South America, okay? I want you guys to be real about this. Now, if you look at her, now you put her in Arawak clothing, you wouldn't be able to know. You'd say, yeah, that's an Arawak. That's for sure an Arawak. But this is a Hindu. Now, is there a connection with the Arawak Carib people in her? Maybe, anciently. So my point is that we just got to leave things open, that it may not always be just American indigenous blood when we find people in South America that look like her. She looks like many North American, so-called African American women. And you guys know I'm not just making this up or saying any bull right now. You guys know what I'm talking about. Just look at her. She looks like many people in North America. The British Indies, she's a Hindu woman in Suriname. If she mixed with a local Arawak man, would you be able to tell the difference in their children and then their children and remember that they were Hindu at one point? You might forget. You might forget and just say, my grandma was Arawak. Another Hindu woman, as you guys can see here, very swarthy. All right, look at the gear. I believe this was one of the wives of an emperor. He had a couple of wives they were shown in the pics. This was one of them. Okay. And here we have a Igorot warrior, headhunter of the Philippine Cordilleras. Okay. Igorot warrior, the Igorot tribe, tribal people, headhunters of the Philippines. Here's a Filipino smoking up from his pipe, chilling with his turban on. Here's a picture I found that was either from South America or the Caribbean, can't remember, but these were immigrants from India as they're labeling them here. This is in America, they're calling them immigrants, as you guys can see. These are all Swarthy people, very Swarthy Hindus, all right, with their turbans on, all right, so immigrants from India that were forgotten. We got another Hindu or Indian girl spinning silk. Look, choosing her legs and her hands. This is a skill, this is an art. And look at her. I just want you guys to really look at what she looks like. And you can't tell me that she don't look like many North American women. Beautiful ancient Naga descendant. Look at her spinning silk. All right, I'm glad I found this one. This was a very old, small pic, and I was able to find it. And again, her people in the 1500s, 1600s were being taken, enslaved, and being brought to America and being labeled as Chinos and Indios. Right here we have an Indian Hindu man. And look at his hair, very wavy, very thick beard, swarthy complexion. And India, a fakir, India. This is a Hindu man. All right, and here we have an indigenous couple from New Caledonia Island in the South Pacific. New Caledonia, New Caledonians right here. And this is what they look like. All right, in New Caledonia, a lot like the Fijians and Papua New Guinean people, but these are Caledonian, ancient, indigenous New Caledonians. That's what they call it. So again, New Caledonia, where is it again? Right near Fiji, under the Solomon Islands, on the east side of Australia, way over here, Caledonia, right? New Caledonians, that's what they look like, right? So-called Negro people. Again, same people that were grabbing in the 1500s, 1600s, these Sephardic, Moorish, Jewish pirates, right? These were black folks that were doing this. These Spanish and Portuguese merchants, they were enslaving these people and bringing them to the Americas, okay? All right, and continuing, we have here an indigenous man from Mindanao, Philippines. The Mindanao Moors, as they were calling them, the Mindanao Filipino Moors, as they were calling them, as you guys can see. All right, very, very swarthy, very swarthy. And again, not an African. This was a great picture I found. This was an Indonesian woman. You know, some part of Indonesia. Remember, Indonesia is big, a lot of islands and stuff. And when I saw this in black and white, I was like, she looks like she's swarthy. So I colorized it, and this is what we got. All right, look at that. Wow. To me, it's just amazing to find these pics and just like, because, you know, you picture different type of people, you know, in these clothing and stuff and in these countries. But then you find swarthy, original people like this. Beautiful woman from Indonesia. Another man from Indonesia. Archipelago, remember, there's a lot of islands. You're going to find different phenotypes and different looks throughout the Indonesian archipelago. I'm not sure what he has in his mouth, but, you know, this is a picture I found in Colorized Indonesian man. Okay. And then again, Swarthy. You can see Swarthy. We got some more Javanese people here. It says Javanese prince with 2 servants. This is in Java between 1865 and 1870. Look at his servants. Again, they're all Javanese. And this is the master, I guess, as you guys can see him. Got another Javanese woman here. Let me just close in. Again, you know, when you Google, we saw, you know, they put more of a light complexion of people, an image they want you to have in your head. So this is a Javanese dancer. All right, let me zoom in. I mean, just look at her phenotype and her swarthy brown complexion. All right, look at her hair and look at her gear and her attire. Very beautiful, very nice picture. Javanese. Here we have a Kanak warrior from 1910. This is in New Caledonia. Remember, we saw the island earlier. New Caledonian, an indigenous New Caledonian. All right. Asian. This is not an African or of African ancestry. Some more Guerreros Kanakes, or Kanak warriors from New Caledonia Island in the South Pacific. All right, you guys can see. Let me zoom in some more. All right, these are the people, again, these Sephardic pirates, these Moorish merchants, Portuguese and Spanish pirates were enslaving. These are the people they were enslaving and bringing to the Americas. And again, calling Chinos. A lot of these so-called Chinos eventually became known as Indios or Indians in the Americas. Here we have Kandyan chiefs in Ceylon, Sri Lanka. All right, Ceylon, Sri Lanka. Let me zoom in. So swarthy, so-called Negro people. Again, these people are not from Africa just because of their complexion, but these are all from Ceylon. Again, Sri Lanka, right? Sri Lanka, indigenous people of Sri Lanka. Here we have a Kanyang man from the Kanyan tribe. He's a Hindu, a hill tribe of the Kanyan people in Assam, India. Assam, India. Look at his turban with the Tartar design. Yeah, this is a Hindu right here. So-called Chino that they were bringing into America, so-called Chinos. Here we have Kaya girls from Myanmar's island, from the Myanmar island, Southeast Asia. Very swarthy people, indigenous Myanmar people or women, as you guys can see. So where is Myanmar? All right, let's take a look here. All right, so it's going to bring us to Myanmar, which says Burma, Myanmar, and look where Myanmar is. All right, it's on top of Thailand, next to India, Bangladesh, and these are some indigenous women from Myanmar. Myanmar, as you guys can see. Here we got Korewa tribal group. It says Aboriginal from the Chota Nagpur area of India. All right, these are Hindus, all right? Indians, Hindus, all right? These people, they're not from Africa just because they're dark skinned. Hope you guys starting to understand this major point. You gotta break those misconceptions. You gotta empty your cup with all that stuff. All right, again, these are some Hindus from the Chota Nagpur region of India, the Korewa Indian tribe. This is a Javanese dancer with a bow and arrow. It says Mangkunagarang and Kraton Surakarta. A Javanese dancer with a bow and arrow. All right, you guys can see. So Swarthy, so-called Negro, Javanese, indigenous person from Java. All right, with her bow and arrow. With her bow and arrow, huh? Here we have a Meena woman from the Meena people, the Meena tribe in India, a Hindu. She is very dark complexion, looking like the Black Marys, right? Like the Black Mary statues in all these churches, Catholic churches all throughout Latin America and many other countries as well. They're showing the Black Madonna, looking like the Black Madonna. But this is a Meena woman from India, a Hindu, and these are the people they were bringing in the 1500s, 1600s and calling Chinos, eventually becoming Indios. This is a perfect example of Katarina, the story we read earlier, right? How she went from India, just like this lady right here from India, and she was brought to Mexico. She became a saint. She became a Saint Catarina. So look at this lady. She can easily become a saint. Look at that. Looking just like Black Mary, so-called Black Mary. Here we have men in warrior clothes at La Mawolo on South Solor. This is 1929, Indonesia, Indonesian archipelago, the Lamawolo people. And here, real quick, we have the Lamawolo region, right? Look at this volcano right here. Wow, Lamawolo right here, Lamawolo. And where's Lamawolo again? I'm gonna back up. In Lamawolo, as you guys can see, backed up is in Indonesia, Lamawolo, you see? Lamawolo, let's go back to the pic. Indonesians from Lamawolo. Let me show you, close up, look at their hair, right? Look at him, he don't play, and then look at him, he's chilling, all right? He's chilling. Yeah, look at these fellows here in Lamawolo, Indonesia, so Swarthy, so-called Negros. And these are the people they were bringing into Mexico in the 1500s and 1600s, grouping them as Chinos, okay? You guys understand? It says here, Minan women. Not exactly sure what country. I believe that might be in Sri Lanka or Sumatra. One of those two. I'd say that due to the clothes they're wearing. It looks like some of the other pictures I have. But as you guys can see, especially her on the right, her phenotype, they have different, but they have the same complexion almost kind of, right? Here we have a native Sinhalese woman making lace old Ceylon postcard. It says here lace making Ceylon in the postcard. I'm going to zoom into her so you guys can see. To me, she looks very much like many North American women I see growing up in Boston and different parts of the US. You know, what's the difference? Just look at her. You guys be honest with yourselves, right? And she's from Ceylon, Sinhalese. This is a Sinhalese indigenous woman. She's not from Africa. This is a postcard from Ceylon. A postcard from Ceylon. This is a very old postcard I found, and I colorized it. It was very small. That's why it looks pixelated. But I was able to save it and restore it a little bit. And look what we found here in Ceylon. Look at this woman. Look at this so-called Negro, right? And she was being referred to as Chino. Her people were being taken from their land and bringing to the Americas, being referred to as Chino. Right here we have Nayar women, Nayar females from India, Hindu. All right, very cool image. When I colorized it, I was just like, wow, look at them. Looking like a lot of people, again, I know in Americas. A lot of people I know in Costa Rica, Cape Verdeans, I can name so many in Dominican Republic, Puerto Ricans, I can name so many, right? They look like a lot of people, familiar faces. These are Hindu women, again, coolies, they would call them in the Americas, coolies. But just look at how pretty they are. Look at their gear. Nayar, females. This is a very cool picture I found here. As soon as I saw it in black and white, I was like, oh, I gotta colorize this one. It says newlywed woman in fully party costume, Tanimbar, Maluku Islands. Remember the Maluku Islands, Indonesia. This is an Indonesian woman, original indigenous woman from the Maluku Islands, the Tanimbar region, Indonesia, archipelago. Take a good look, all right? So-called Negro woman. We're talking about the ancient Nagas. We're talking about ancient Mayas, Nagas. What's the connection here? But I just want you guys to know this is an indigenous Indonesian. And we're back in the book Asian Slaves in Colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians, Tatiana Sejas, all right? And it says here, the Portuguese slave trade in the Indian Ocean world. A remote political event in Europe explains the prominence of Portuguese slave traders. Who's these Portuguese? Let's not forget, these are so-called Negro people, so-called black Portuguese, a lot of them Sephardic, Jewish, Moorish, Muslim, pirates, crypto new Christians, crypto Jews, crypto Muslims. Again, Portuguese slave traders in the Philippines and the corresponding presence of foreign slaves in the Manila market. In 1578, all the way back in the 1500s, guys, Portugal suffered a succession crisis when King Sebastian I died without an heir. Philip II of Spain took this opportunity to invade the country and seize the Portuguese crown. During the period of Iberian Union or Spanish captivity, 1580 to 1640, the Spanish king ruled two empires with separate governmental structures. The Treaty of Tomar, 1581, expressively prohibited trade between the colonies of Spain and Portugal, but commercial links were nonetheless established between the Estado de India and the Philippines. Portuguese traders claimed that as vassals of the Spanish king, it was just for them to trade and contract in Manila. Having previously engaged in raiding for slaves in various islands of the Philippines archipelago, the Portuguese were eager to change the nature of their visits and enter the market as lawful traders. During this period of some 60 years, the Portuguese arrived in Manila with the monsoon winds, bringing slaves from the Moluccas, again, from where? Moluccas and Malacca and India, Malacca, Maluku Islands, the Malacca people. I showed you, so swarthy, woolly haired, Afro, whatever you want to call it. They're not Africans, and these are the people that Sephardic, Moorish, Portuguese, Jews, and Muslims were enslaving, raiding, and bringing to the Americas. They're telling you right here, Moluccas and Malacca. They're giving you specific places. Go look at the people that were there in the 1500s and 1600s. I'm already showing you pictures from the 1800s. Imagine 300 years later. So imagine what they looked like in 1500s and 1600s, right? 300 years before. The organization of this trade, which resulted in the influx of slaves from regions far beyond the Philippines archipelago, accounts for the great diversity of the Manila slave market. All right, influx of slaves from regions far beyond the Philippines. I showed you all these islands, and they were grabbing these people, bringing them to the Philippine Manila slave market. All right, accounts for the great diversity of the Manila slave market. The Portuguese were driven to trade in Manila by a desire to gain access to the silver sent from Mexico as part of the government's subsidy, situado, for the colony, as well as from silver merchants who sent their agents to acquire Asian commodities. Silver was the monetary standard in most of Asia, but the Portuguese had no silver deposits of their own, so they had to procure it. Elsewhere in Manila, the Portuguese offered a variety of goods in exchange for silver, including munitions, equipment for shipping and other metalware, cotton textiles from India, and spices. Slaves, however, were their singular most profitable Commodities, slaves was where the money was at. Contemporaries took special notice of the ships that regularly left Goa for Manila and condemned the many offenses to God that were committed on these slaving vessels. All right, all these slave narratives talking about Kunta Kinte. Alex Haley lied. He was talking about what was going on to the Asians and the Europeans they were bringing. Remember, let's not forget the other slaves too. All these unwanted, undesirable Europeans. Check out my previous videos. And now we see that in Asia, there was a large quantity of these people being brought to the Americas too. So there's two major places they were bringing foreign labor. Apart from the local indigenous Americans they were enslaving, right? We got that too first. We got to clear everything up. There was already people here. They didn't need to bring so many people. They already had people in here in Americas. When they needed more people, though, and they wanted to keep colonizing, though, they brought others from Europe and Asia, not Africa, not as much as they told us. So many offenses happened in these slaving vessels. In this sense, the influx of American silver escalated Portuguese slave trading in Manila, as it prompted Portuguese traders to increase the number of sails they brought up to the Spanish capital to exchange for silver. The Portuguese, moreover, increased their trading activities because Manila had a great demand for slaves. The slave trade to Manila ran well because the Portuguese had trading networks. Remember the Port Jews, they had networks. Remember they had this network of trading back and forth all over the world. We read about this. They had a trading network to supply their own colonial possessions with slaves, particularly Goa and Macau, long before the Iberian Union, long before that. They were already doing that since the 1300s, 1400s. Listen to what they're telling you. According to the Spaniard Juan de Rivera, Portuguese in India had more slaves than any other nation of the world. Portuguese, these were black folks. Hyperbole, notwithstanding, the typical Portuguese in Goa had 10 slaves. These slaves were from regions as far away as Mozambique and Japan. The life story of Anton Rosado, who was born in Goa and died in Mexico, testifies to the reach and workings of the Portuguese Indies trade. The Portuguese brought his ancestors together. In Anton's own words, his paternal grandfather had been Captain General of the fleet in Goa, a great gentleman who died on his way back to Portugal from India. His grandmother was a slave from Mozambique, and his maternal grandparents were slaves from Ternate in the Maluku Islands. Maluku, his grandma. For many years, he worked as a servant of Portuguese soldiers, traveling with them by land and sea to places such as Cochin and Ceylon. Then one day in Manila, his employer sold him unjustly into slavery, and he ended up on board the galleon bound for Acapulco. That's in Mexico, all right? That's the one story of this Anton Rosado. Now, very interesting. A lot of you are going to say, you see Kurimeo, Mozambique, that's Africa. Well, okay, yeah, there was some there from Eastern Africa, Eastern, not West Africa, as they told us, Eastern, some. But as you guys can see, people in the Maluku Islands too. His maternal grandparents were from the Maluku Islands, and these were black folks, so-called Negros. Stop trying to Africanize everybody. Please stop trying to Africanize everybody. The Portuguese traded slaves as part of their Indies trade system, Comercio de India a India, which stretched from East Africa to Japan. Continues, says Portuguese traders traveled from port to port, usually starting in Goa and stopping in Malacca or the Malacu, Macau, Nagasaki, and back again. After 1580, Manila became one more port of call. Portuguese traders would, for example, acquire white and brown sugar, tortoiseshell and gold in the Philippines, and then take this merchandise to Malacca to exchange for slaves and cloth. They would then continue on to other ports and repeat the pattern of selling and acquiring new commodities along the way. The Indies trade was largely a private venture rather than being part of the royal routes, carretas, that connected India back to Europe. Some Portuguese traders were full-time merchants. Others were soldiers or sailors who were allowed to engage in a little trading on the side as an inducement to work in the far reaches of the Portuguese seaborne empire. One such Portuguese soldier tried to make some profit by bringing a slave from Bengal named Miguel to sell in Manila, but Miguel ran away soon after arriving in the Philippines. For the most part, however, Portuguese traders transported large numbers of slaves and sold them in Manila in lots. Slaves traveled far with their Portuguese captors, who acquired chattel in places throughout the Indian Ocean world, not Africa. The Bay of Bengal, for example, was an important source of slaves for the Portuguese. They allied with the king of Arakan to carry out joint slaving expeditions in the early 17th century. The rise of slave raiding in the region of Bengal correlated with Arakanese military expansion, as well as heightened Dutch demands for slave labor. According to French traveler Francois Bernier, the Portuguese entered the numerous arms and branches of the Ganges in light galleys and carried away entire villages. Listen, this is not in Africa they were doing this. And these people are not like how the Hindus you picture today. These are so-called Negro people that you would say these are Africans, but they weren't from Africa. And listen to what they were doing, these Portuguese, other Negroes. This is more and more war. Shout out to 432 The Drop Radio, Con Drop. Again, these Portuguese entered numerous arms and branches of the Ganges, that river, right, in India, and light galleys and carried away entire villages. This is a whole slave trade they didn't tell us about. They didn't really emphasize because they wanted everybody to think they were from Africa. These captives were then sold to passing traders who bought whole cargoes at a cheap rate, whole cargoes of people at a cheap rate. In this region, therefore, Portuguese divided the labor of slaving with some focus on acquiring slaves through piracy. All right, so it keeps going. I stopped right there. So I want to read a little bit of the content in this book so you guys can see what it's really telling us. A lot of people send me this book and they don't have a real reference historically and understand what they're reading. They're just picturing light-skinned Chinese people when they're saying Chinos. They weren't really paying attention when they were reading these things. And we go back to the pictures, right? What do we have here? We have an old photo of a Papua New Guinea. We have a Papuan Gulf warrior, in traditional ethnic jewelry, all right? This is an Asian, so-called Chino, right? So-called Chino. Look at his feather headdress. All right, what is the connection with that and us here in America? We're gonna get deep into this investigation. Trust me, I'm going that way. Here we have an Oraon Kuli female, an aboriginal from the Shokta Nagpur region of India. We just read. What were they doing to they were carrying whole villages away of people that look like her. Not Hindus how you picture them today. People that look like her, bringing them to the Americas, whole villages. A major slave trade here that they swept under the rug, and they didn't really explain it to us correctly or emphasize how big it was and who the people were. Break the spell. The time has come. The whole world was melanated, not just in Africa. Here we have Pakoy Alam, the fourth of the Principality of Pakoy Alam from the Jakarta, Central Java. This is from 1870, all right? Javanese, more Swarthy, Javanese, indigenous people, and this is royalty, all right? What happened? They don't look like that now. This is his servant most likely right here, next to him, all right, holding his umbrella just in case it gets sunny and hot or starts raining for him, all right? Royal Principality, Swarthy, Javanese. Here we have a Papua New Guinea man, okay? A Papua New Guinea man. Check out the claw or tooth he has on his hair coming down. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Nice picture. I was able to colorize, showing the color, the grass in the background. He's on some hills or something like that, it appears. Very cool picture, as you guys can see. And these are same people they were bringing to Manila, right? Slave market, and bringing to America, classifying them as Chinos. Some more Papua New Guinea tribal men here in their village, as you guys can see. All right, zoom in a little bit. Really good. What we're looking at here, you got to break the spell. All right, look at all the people back here, all Swarthy people. indigenous people, and these are not Africans, guys. You gotta break the spell. I know some of you take that as personal or that disrespectful, but it's nothing like that. I'm trying to help you open your eyes. I'm trying to help you break the spell. They lied to us, guys. They lied to us big time. Here's some more Papa Island men, Papua, all right? And what's interesting about this is that it looks like he actually has a head here. I don't see a body, right? I think he took somebody's head, another headhunter possibly, all right? The guy, the head looks almost like him, so I wonder if it was a family member. Uh-oh. Is that a head or is this a glitch in the picture? I don't know. That's what it came up as. Right? Knowing that there was headhunters, well, possibly that might likely be a head right there. All right, still very interesting picture, very cool. Colorized it. It was hard to see when it was really small and black and white, but the colors tell the story, right? Here we have more Papua New Guinea and the Torres Strait. It says in the Torres Strait, you can see Swarthy. And the funny thing is, even the pig is Swarthy. Even this pig, pork, this chancho, right, is Swarthy. Don't look like the pigs of today, these pink albino pigs, right? And just look at the people. All right, let me zoom into the children right here so you guys can see, right? These are the children. Again, these ain't Africans. These are Papua New Guineans, indigenous people. They've been there thousands and thousands of years. Another Papua New Guinea man. All right, this is a very cool picture. Very cool picture. I was like, I have to colorize this one. Really cool. Take a look. It's a little jello-ish. They didn't do a pretty good job, but you guys can tell, right? Just look at him, right? Have a clear perspective. Use your senses, right? Not everybody that looks like this person is coming out of Africa or is an American Indian, all right? This is a Papua New Guinea indigenous man right here. Now, whether there's an ancient connection, that's a whole different story, but let's go step by step here so we can clear stereotypes and prejudices. And here we have another Papua New Guinea man, all right? And it's so cool about them is that they really rock the feathers a lot. They have a lot of the headdresses. As you can see, this person, very swarthy, so-called Negro from Papua New Guinea. Man, this is an old picture I was able to colorize, fine colorize. Look how cool this one is, guys. All right, look how cool that is. Here we have more Papua New Guinea tribal people, and might be performing a ritual ceremony or a dance. Not sure, but I just wanted, I thought it was a cool picture to colorize when I saw it in black and white. And many people would imagine these are Africans if they didn't know, if they just found this image on the internet, they would say, oh, look at these Africans, right? They're not Africans. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. Hope you guys get that clear now. All right, watch part 1 of this and catch up to my previous videos. We've already debunked the out of Africa theories. Please take the time. If you're here to question me, don't even do it on the comments. I don't waste my time. Just go ahead and get in the classroom and debunk the information. DNA test, that's fake. DNA tests don't work. We debunked that already. Some more Papua New Guinea warriors from the Mandan Astrolabe Bay taken around the year 1900s with spears and shields. All right, I'm gonna zoom in right here. You guys can take a look. You guys understand now what the Papua New Guinea people look like? Do you guys understand now? Overstand? A Papuan Gulf tribesman. So there's Papua and then there's Papua New Guinea, right? It's split in half. So this is the northern part, Papuan, and this is what they look like as well, the indigenous people there. Again, remember, this was in black and white picture. This is an older picture, just looks pretty cool. Was able to enhance it and everything, and this is what we get. Here we have people from the Lombok, West Nusa Tenggara, and the Maluku Island region, Indonesian archipelago. All right, these are the people they never told us about. These are the same people the Portuguese, these Portuguese slave raiders were bringing to the Americas. These people would eventually be classified as Chinos. We have here a Filipino woman. This is an indigenous Filipino woman. Okay, just take a good look at her. All right, guys, take a really good look at her. Again, she looks like many people I grew up seeing in North America. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Maybe you might think not. Very great picture to colorize. Very cool. Look at the colors, the green in the background, and just look at her. You cannot deny so-called Negro woman, right? But this is an indigenous person from the Philippines. Philippines. Here we have photo of the Aeta children of the Philippines, the Aeta tribe, Aeta, in case you guys want to study them. And again, they try to say these people are African when you go into these mainstream narratives, right? Because the way they look right here. But these, again, indigenous Filipinos, the Aeta, ancient. They're very ancient in this area. Philippines, no proof of them being from Africa. Stop making things up. Here we have a Polynesian girl, very rare picture I was able to find, colorized. Even where I got this photo in the website, it was like a blog is saying how you don't see this image of Polynesia anymore. Hard to find this type of people. Even on that website, they were saying it. And, it was a black and white picture. And I was like, yeah, let me colorize this. And just look what we found here. Here we have a portrait of a Batak woman. Remember the Batak people? From 1870, Northern Sumatra, Indonesia. Northern Sumatra, Indonesia. All right? Northern Sumatra, Indonesia. Take a good look. And again, I see a lot of familiar faces when I'm looking at these pictures growing up in the States and even here in Costa Rica. All right? Locally. Again, that's just my opinion. And these are, again, your so-called Chinos they were bringing from Asia into America. And here we have a portrait of a girl from the Calanasan, Apayao, Northern Luzon, Philippines region. As you guys can see, so Swarthy. All right? Filipino, indigenous Filipino. Look at that. Here we have a portrait of a public dancer in Bali. As you guys can see, so Swarthy. This is an up-close picture of her. This is from far away again. Beautiful, right? Look at the clothing. Again, she's not of African ancestry. Here we have a portrait of two inhabitants of Flores, the Flores Islands. Remember, the Maluku Indonesian archipelago, possibly from the Ikat village, Negela, before 1938. Let's zoom in on these two gentlemen and look at them. All right, very swarthy. Look at their phenotypes. All right. So-called Chinos, right? They were bringing to the Americas. Here we have a portrait of two women from the west coast of Sumatra, West Sumatra, around 1880 to 1908. All right, two women from Sumatra. Look at them, wow! And look at their gear. Again, what we're talking about, Star Wars. Where they get the idea for Star Wars and all these clothing, these gears, these costumes in these movies? Look at them. All right, these are black folks. All right, indigenous Sumatra women, indigenous melanated Sumatrans, right? Let me back up again. Look at that. Look at all the clothing. Look how beautiful the design is right here. Let me zoom into that. Look at the designs. Look at the beautiful clothing and the gear they got. Look at that head wrap. Wow. This is a bit of a close-up of the one on the right. All right, just a little close-up here. Here we have a postcard depicting a Malay girl modeling the latest clothing design, National Archives of Singapore. All right, a Malay girl, a Malay girl modeling the latest clothing design. She's in fashion. Here we have Princess Tule of the Tonga, Fiji Island. Princess Tule of the Tonga, Fiji Island. And I saw that on a comment. Somebody said, this is my great something grandmother of Princess Tule. So the information was there. I was able to copy that. And Fiji, the Fiji Islanders, they rock the froze. That's part of their culture. Remember that. All right, Princess Tule of Tonga, Fiji Island. Here we have Rais Monoarfa, the Prince of Kerajaan, Gorontalo, posing in 1870. Later, he became Dojo Gugu Kota, and he died in Manado. All right, Rais, the Prince of Kerajaan. Look at him. All right, this is an Asian. Look at him, so swarthy. Look at his phenotype. So very cool picture. He looks like a pretty serious young man. And I just wanted you guys to look at him. Very cool picture. Look at that. So swarthy, so-called Negro, so-called Chino. Here we have Rajath of Silana, Rajput Silana. This is from India. Hindu. All right, check him out. Yeah, look at him. He don't play, man. He doesn't play. Again, a Hindu. Again, a so-called Chino from India, the Yana or Silana region of India. Here we have another Hindu woman, a Rajputi, that's her name, from 1865. All right, very, very swarthy. And just look at the gear. Beautiful, right? These designs, these clothings they had. Here we have a Rongan dancer, Betawi, previously Batavia. This is in Jakarta, Java. This is a Javanese dancer, right? With her Javanese servants or something. Look at that. Look how swarthy they are. Again, they don't show us Javanese like this today. Look at her. She looked like a princess. Javanese. Here we have people in the Rubiana village of New Georgia, Western Solomon Islands. Solomon Islanders, right? Again, Solomon Islanders, indigenous Solomon Islanders, so-called Negros. And again, being enslaved by the Portuguese and Spanish, being brought to Americas and being labeled so-called Chinos. Chinos. Here's your Chinos, guys. Here's your Chinos. This is your Chinos. I'm telling you. This is what they were calling Chinos. Here we have a Samoan woman, beautiful. And look at the leaves on her clothing and stuff. When I colorized it, I was like, wow, really cool, really cool. All right, Samoan, right? Samoan, what you talking about, The Rock? Samoan. Here we have Sinhalese women, Ceylon, Sinhalese, Ceylon. All right, Sri Lanka. Here we go in the Sumin. All right, look at her here in the left. Look at her all the way here in the left, in the middle. You see their phenotypes? And again, looks like people I've seen in Americas. Looks like people I've seen in the Americas, guys. Just my opinion. Beautiful women right here. Ceylon, Sinhalese, original, indigenous Sinhalese women. Here we have a Singpho, a woman, warlike frontier tribe on Laos, southern frontier of Assam. Southern frontier of Assam. This is from India. This is from India, a Hindu woman. India. Look at that. All right, so swarthy, so swarthy. Here I have Southeast Asian children, not sure what country, but it was in this website where it said Southeast Asians, and they got almost like their Muslim gear, right? Like their Muslim gear on, as you guys can see, so swarthy. I mean, not from Africa, no African ancestry. These are indigenous Southeast Asians, okay, guys? Here we have an old photo of the Tufi warriors from pre-1920 with shields, and it's colorized here for you guys. Look at this. So Tufi warriors, Southeast Asians. I believe these are Papua New Guineans or New Caledonians. Papua New Guinea, I believe so. Actually more. Yeah, Tufi warriors. Look at that. All right, so-called Negros. And again, they don't show us none of these pictures growing up. They just wanted us to picture Asians in a certain way. But I want you guys from now on, when you picture Asia, picture this. This is Asia. This is original Asia right here. This is a Southeast Asian woman as well. All right. Might be from Sumatra, Sri Lanka. Not sure. I wasn't able to get a location, but she was very, very swarthy. So-called China, right? So-called China. Very swarthy Southeast Asian. Look at that. Here we have Southeast Asians from Papua New Guinea. Either doing some fishing or going to fish, coming back from fishing, in a boat. Not sure what they're doing, the picture, but as you guys can see, all right, woolly haired, swarthy complexions, so-called Negros. And again, these people are not from Africa. They're indigenous to this part of the world. Here we have a South Pacific Asian man, another one right here. Not sure the country, but yeah, I thought it was cool when I colorized it. I was like, yup, swarthy, so swarthy. Here we have South Pacific Asian women, some more. And these are some of the ones that I didn't know the regions, but we just knew they were from Asia. Again, they don't show us these type of people when we think of Asians. And to me, these are so-called Negro women. And these are your Chinas or Chinos. When they were enslaving them and bringing them to the Americas, that's what they were classifying them as. Here we have a South Pacific Asian man, another one. You guys can see, so swarthy. All right, I believe this is from the Philippines, if I remember correctly. Here we have Sri Sultan Hakemkubuwono the sixth, also spelled Hamenkubuwana the sixth, was the sixth sultan of the Jogjakarta Sultanate, who reigned from 1855 to 1877. Javanese, all right, this is a Javanese monarch, all right, Javanese monarch. You guys can see, so swarthy, royalty, original Javanese, so-called Negro, so-called Chino, all right, Javanese royalty right here. Here we have a Tamil girl from India wearing an upper body tunic over a sari, 1912, all right? A Tamil girl from India. Take a good look at her. Tamil girl, a Hindu girl. Remember the story of Katarina? She was brought to Mexico. She was a Hindu. All right, what if she looked like her? Here we have another Tamil woman. All right, Tamil woman. Look how beautiful she is as well. Look at her jewelry, her headgear. Let me back up a little bit. She is definitely swarthy, what we say, copper colored. Tamil beauty, right? Tamil beauty, it says here, Tamil India. Look at how beautiful she is. A Tanim Baris man with ivory imported from Sumatra, Maluku Islands, Indonesia. All right, he's an Indonesian from the Maluku Islands. Look how interesting he looks. All right, look how interesting he looks. Thought it was a cool picture to colorize. Here we have the head of the Molo with his entourage visiting the post holder of Babao Timur. All right, Southeast Asians, all right, so swarthy, the head of the Molo, all right, the head of the Molo right here, so swarthy. Here we have the Sultanate of Gorontalo, which was originally known as the Kingdom of Gorontalo, is one of the oldest and most influential kingdoms in the northern peninsula, Sulawesi Island, Indonesia. One of the oldest kingdoms. Who these people represent? One of the oldest kingdoms in Indonesia. Look at that, so-called Negro people, so swarthy, all right, so swarthy. Indigenous people, one of the oldest kingdoms, as it says there. Here we have 3 employees of the Dutch East Indies Public Works Service in Lombok, Indonesia. Lombok, Indonesia. Look at these. Indonesians, so-called Negro people. Indonesians, so-called Chinos. Right? Here we have 3 unidentified Samoan girls wearing traditional Samoan clothing. All right? Samoan females. Look at that. Samoans. Wow. A bit more zoomed in so you guys can see. Get a good look at some Samoans, indigenous Samoans. Let me back up again. Samoans, huh? Here we have the 3 women in Samoa, some more Samoans, all right? Let me zoom in. Let me see. All right, so swarthy, so-called Negro, and your so-called Chinos. These are the people they were labeling Chinos. Here we have a Tingian woman from the Philippines. Just look at her, take a good look at her. Again, I swear I've seen this type of look. It's a familiar face growing up in Boston. I'm just saying, it's my opinion, guys, but Philippines, right? Filipino, indigenous Filipino. Here we have a Toda woman in India, a Toda woman from India, very swarthy. Look at her hair, very curly and wavy. All right, dark complexion Hindu woman. Here we have Moluccas, or Moluccus, the Moluccas people. Remember, the Portuguese were taking whole villages. They were going to the Moluccas natives and taking them and enslaving them. Well, here's your Moluccas. This is the people they were grabbing, bringing to the Americas. So-called Negro people, not Africans. A whole slave trade they left out of history. A whole Middle Passage they really didn't teach us about. Here we have a Toda woman from the Nilgiri Hills in India. Again, a Toda woman, Hindu woman from India. So swarthy. All right, guys, take a good look. Next pic, we got a Tusuk Dos Bairagi people, Hindu religious mendicant from Allahabad, India. And look what he's doing. Let me show you. He got his feet up. Look how he's bent up. Who taught him that stuff? Look, this is a so-called Negro. Check it out, guys. Hindu. Look at it, guys. This is an awesome picture right here. Look how he's bent. He ain't even feeling it. No sweat. Look how he's bent. And he got his arms folded like, what? What? Very cool picture. Again, from the Allahabad region of India. Allah, right? Sounds like Muslim, Allah. Here we have two children of the former Secretary of War, Asep Panglina, Indonesia, all right? Indonesian children. Look how beautiful they look. Look at this awesome pic, all right? Look at these beautiful children from Indonesia, all right? Indonesian indigenous children, your so-called Chinos. Your so-called Chinos, here you go. Here we have two women from Ambon City, the Maluku Islands in Indonesia. All right, you see that? Your so-called Chinas. So Swarthy, Maluku Islands, Indonesia, Indonesians, original Indonesians. Here we have the Wayang Orang and Java. These are Javanese. This is a theater performance, I believe. A lot of theater stuff here coming out of Java. I guess they were into that a lot. As you guys can see, all these people swarthy complexion, right? Here we have women from Ambon Island, the Ambon Island, Indonesia, Ambon, so-called Negro people as well, very swarthy. Again, these are your so-called Chinos, Chinas they were bringing over to the Americas, Ambon Islanders, women. Here we have Filipino Negritos, the Porag region, they said, from the Philippines. All right, so it matches the pictures and the drawings of the cartoons, those racial, racist cartoons, stereotypic cartoons they were drawing of the Philippines. Here we have young Cambodians. These are young Cambodians, all right, swarthy Cambodians. Look at this fellow right here in the middle, Cambodian with the gear. You see a lot of the Buddha statues and everything with this kind of headgear and everything. Now you guys understand who's on those Buddha statues anciently. It's swarthy people holding up corn cobs. Remember, don't forget where they coming from. Is there a connection? Here we have a young man from Java or Javanese, Batavia, Jakarta is called today, South Pacific. Very swarthy young fellow, Javanese, as you guys can see, very swarthy Javanese. Here we have two girls from the Tonga, and I believe that was the Samoan or Fiji Islands. As you guys can see, so swarthy. Look at their hair. Look at their phenotypes, beautiful women, their clothes, their traditional clothing. Here we have the princess of the Mindanaos, dancers in the Philippines. Look at her, Filipino dancer. Look, princess of the Mindanao. She's a princess, guys. She's a princess, an Asian princess. Look at that, from the Philippines. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Awesome picture I colorized. Love these pictures. The princess of the Mindanao's dancers. All right, check it out. All right, and we've reached the last picture of the presentation today, guys. This is a Southern Indian man. I got this from that book I showed you guys earlier, The Caste and Tribes of Southern India. All right, and it was in black and white. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, I have to colorize this. And just look at him, man. Just look at that hair. And look at his phenotype, look at his complexion. This is a Hindu, your so-called Chino they were bringing to Mexico. So dodge the hijack. He's not African, dodge the hijack. One thing I do want to say though, and this is not to make fun of him or disrespect him, but when I look at him, I kind of see that image of the trolls, you know, the dolls, the baby trolls, the hair all wild. That's who they were depicting, because a lot of these people were very short. They were like pygmies. A lot of these people were very short and they had hair like this, all wild going on like that. So maybe that's where they got the idea for the trolls. I'm just saying. But what a great picture, right, guys? Look at him. Just look at that. Wow. All right. Much love and respect to you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, and I hope it really helps you understand certain things when it comes to us thinking about what Asians are supposed to look like, when we get references of people enslaving Chinos and bringing them to the Americas and making them Indians. You guys gotta dodge the hijack, dodge your own hijacks, and really, really see. Really. Thanks for tuning in. Pura vida. Much love and respect. Shalom. Hawa.